CBS Sports HQ coverage of the NBA draft begins now. Dybantsa, the #1 overall pick selected by the Washington Wizards, Big 12 Freshman of the Year, became the first Division I freshman to ever average 25 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 3 assists per game. And he is the first #1 pick in BYU history. And with that, we welcome you into our NBA draft coverage. CBS Sports Director of Basketball Scouting Adam Finkelstein, CBS Sports College Basketball Insider Gary Parrish, and CBS Sports Senior Writer Matt Norlander. I am Hakeem Dermish. Okay, Adam Finkelstein, you've had him mocked to the Wizards. Your grade is what for A.J. Dybantsa to Washington?
Yeah, this is an A. A.J. Dybantsa, prototypical big NBA wing, 6'9", 7-foot wingspan. He's athletic. He pressures the rim. He understands how to get fouled. He's got an ability to rise and fire on demand in the mid-range area, and he is as polished of a scorer as we have seen in several draft cycles. This is an A for the Wizards.
A lot of noise leading up to the draft in recent weeks. Quieted down a little bit, but the betting market's never changed. It seems like it was always headed this direction. I don't doubt for a second that Washington did its due diligence on Cameron Boozer, on Darryn Peterson, perhaps more. You should when you own this type of pick. But ultimately, I think they got it right. Like we've talked about all night, Dybantsa, he's a super high ceiling with a really high floor. Even if he doesn't maximize his potential, he's still going to score a lot of points in the NBA. And my prediction would be we will look up next spring, and he is on a playoff team in the Eastern Conference.
Third freshman ever to lead D1 in scoring. Matt, you spent a lot of time with him during the season, talking with his family. What kind of player and what kind of human being is Washington getting here with A.J. Dybantsa?
I think that one of the most important things viewers need to realize is that Dybantsa obviously presents as this huge potential future mega celebrity in American sports, and that might be the case. He's got a very loud game. You can't not have your eyes drawn onto him when you see him on the court. He has a tremendous reputation for being a great teammate. He's almost a willing passer too much by default. He is the right pick, the #1 pick. They have had this journey, this vision, that family for 4 years. They dictated and controlled every step of the way. Sometimes at the detriment to some people. They ticked off some people along the way, but I got to talk with AJ last week. I spoke with his father twice today, and the message never wavered. He wants more than anything to be #1. They were very close with the Utah Jazz franchise. He wanted to be #1 more than he wanted to play at Utah. And as of, within an hour of the draft starting, Ace Dybantsa and that family did not waver. They believed that he was going to go #1, and so he goes there. And we could potentially have one of the 5 biggest faces in the NBA by the time he ends his rookie contract, Hakeem. And I agree with Fink. I think he will lead the NBA in scoring, not just once. I think this is a player who's actually capable of doing it 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. A real debate, but he's the right guy for it. And Washington hasn't had a pick since John Wall that injected this amount of optimism into that franchise.
Well, when you think about John Wall, right, he was the face of the franchise. He was face forward. He was out there. They're putting posters downtown D.C. Does Dybantsa, in your mind, have that star capability to be that guy, to overtake a Trae Young and say, hey, this is my franchise? Not that we're trying to, be jealous of each other, but this is the guy we take #1. You're the youngest player here, and you have a chance to be our guy.
I think that can and will be the case. I talked with a couple league sources earlier in the day, and they actually thought that the Trae Young signing and extension was the tipping of the hand for Washington, because they didn't think that pairing Trae Young with Darryn Peterson would have made a lot of sense to have both of those very ball-dominant players. Meanwhile, Dybantsa, bigger in the front court, can play off the wing, actually needs to do a few things to tighten his handle, needs to shoot a little bit better from beyond the arc and beyond the perimeter. Can he be Hakeem? Can he be the guy that becomes the face of this franchise by the end of this first year? Yeah, I do very much think that's the case, and they will obviously build around that. Washington is going to be a lot of fun next season and beyond, and I do think Dybantsa's got a wonderful, wonderful chance at being one of the 3, 4, 5 biggest faces of the NBA in the not-so-distant future.
How do you evaluate this fit with Washington playing around Trae Young?
It's interesting because Trae Young has historically been a ball-dominant lead guard, and as we talked about in the introduction, he's going to have to evolve because the best version of the Wizards is not as Trae Young is their option 1A. It's going to be sooner rather than later with A.J. Dybantsa as option 1A. So that means Trae Young is going to have to embrace being less of a scorer, more of a distributor. We know that aligns with his skill set. If he can buy into that, and you've got him and Anthony Davis there, what that will do is it will ease the immediate burden for Dybantsa. We all know Dybantsa can score. The question is, can his scoring impact winning? And quite frankly, that is a question we have not yet had a consistent answer for. With Anthony Davis and Trae Young there, he will not be solely responsible for Washington's wins and losses, at least in the very near future.
I think it's a good fit in part because Trae Young, coming out of college, was a great passer, became a scorer, but can still distribute the ball and run an offense. They've got him now locked up on a max deal. I think this is a pairing that's going to lead Washington back to the playoffs for the first time in a while.
When you look at A.J. Dybantsa, right, Adam, and you have been scouting prospects for a long time now, is there a concern, a swing skill that you go, okay, this is something that he does have to improve on at the NBA level?
You know, this is going to sound like a little bit of a hot take, but I would say coming into this year, it was his competitiveness. And I understand that's not the narrative. But A.J. Dybantsa, I actually talked to him about this. His senior year in high school, it was more of a show than it was a competition. Now, give BYU and Kevin Young a ton of credit because that changed this year. He embraced everything that was about that program. He became about winning. He became about competing. And I think that's why he was the #1 pick in the draft.
A.J. Dybantsa, the first #1 pick in BYU history. Congrats to him and his family. #1 overall to the Washington Wizards. The second player off the board, Kansas elite scorer, Darryn Peterson, the combo guard, 6'6", 205. The question about his availability, drawing plenty of concerns. He only worked out for the Wizards, but did reveal later that he did meet with the Utah Jazz, and no problem with the Utah Jazz selecting him. We saw what they did last season, taking Ace Bailey. No problem here, Adam Finkelstein, as they take Darryn Peterson, #2 off the board. Your grade is what?
This is an A because they get a prospect who may have the highest upside in this draft. The high school version of Darryn Peterson was a jumbo initiator who was big, who was strong, who had long arms, who would put pressure on the rim, who would create offense for himself and others. That player, I thought, was the best player in high school basketball last year. This year at Kansas, we saw a level of shot making that we did not know existed in high school, and yet somehow that player is not the #1 pick in the draft. That comes down to the availability saga. We will get into that, I'm sure, but the bottom line is if you merge what we saw in high school with what we saw in college, that player who can get to the rim, who can score at all levels, who's a dynamic shot maker, has a chance to be the very best player to come out of this draft. It's all just about how often he's on the floor and how often he's at 100%.
We've talked a lot about the concerns. I don't feel like this is the moment to double down on them. Let's talk about the positives. This is what I would have done if I were Utah. In a different world, he's the #1 pick in the draft because the talent does suggest that he should be. And this is how talented he is. Everybody loves Cameron Boozer, like everybody. It's to different degrees, but nobody's got a bad word to say about him. His father literally works in this front office and said in recent days, if you pass on my son, it's going to be a mistake. And the people Carlos Boozer still works for said, yeah, we're doing it. That's how talented Darryn Peterson is. The other stuff, when we look back, it's just things that happened in 1 year of college basketball that maybe wasn't his main priority anyway, then this could be a great story. If the other stuff continues to be a part of his story, then that's a problem. But the talent is off the charts, and if I were Utah, I would bet on it.
I want to see him go out in the summer league, and I wanted to see him ball out. Like, that's what I want to see. If I'm a Utah Jazz fan, I want to see his hunger from minute one. And, Matt, look, fair or not fair in terms of his availability and asking to come out of games and the whole situation with the creatine leading to the cramping, this is a pure scorer. This is a guy that when you turn on the TV or you turn on your streaming device, he is going to get you buckets.
No doubt, and he has an ability to put the ball in the basket that feels and is rarefied, and there were moments where he felt touched from the heavens with some of the stuff that he did at Kansas last season, which made some of his story of why he wasn't more available all the more frustrating. But GP just tapped into something that I had a conversation with the general manager just a few days ago, and this person was telling me, there have been a few picks over the years where we've made them, they haven't been the #2 pick, they haven't been a top 5 pick, but we've had a certain amount of concern for this, that, or the other, and then you get 2, 3, 4 years into the league, and that stuff that you were worried about in the 2 months leading up to draft night, it doesn't even matter anymore. It's not even a part of the player's personality. It doesn't even factor into the locker room. That could entirely be the case here with Peterson. The Utah Jazz have drafted someone who very well could become the best player in this class. It is not a far cry or hard thing to believe, even in this loaded class. And in addition to what Utah also has in the front court, the trades they've made, Jaren Jackson Jr., Walker Kessler, they got a lot up front right now. It makes sense to bring in Peterson. The big irony here, though, bottom line, the top 2 picks, Dybantsa goes 1, Peterson goes 2, and it is Peterson going to the franchise in the state where Dybantsa obviously lived the past 2 years and knows him better than any other one.
Let's now go to the 5th member of our team. We'll continue our conversation, but let's welcome in former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson. Avery, look, you played in the league, helped the Spurs win an NBA championship in 1999. If you're coaching Darryn Peterson, right, what's your message to him when he meets you for the first time at that first practice?
Well, we would have already met, because in the interviewing process, whether it was in Chicago at the pre-draft camp or hopefully if he came in to meet with us, I'm telling him the past is the past. We're going to do the best job with you in terms of helping you take care of your body. You just have to put in the work. We want you to be the player that you know you are. You're a scorer. You're not necessarily a facilitator. Your specialty is putting the ball in the basket at a high level. But we're going to help you take care of your body so that you can be available, because that was part of the big question mark with Darryn Peterson, is his availability. We're talking about an 82-game schedule. So how best can our medical staff, trainers, treatment folks, massage therapists do whatever they need to do to help you be available on the court so that you can play to the best of your ability? So I think that's the biggest question mark about him is he going to be able to play through some aches and pains and play through it in a way that he can play at a high level? Because Utah needs to get this franchise turned around, and he's going to be a major part of it.
Best ability is your availability, in the wise words of the former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson. Avery, thank you. Darryn Peterson to the Utah Jazz. And think about this. Darryn Peterson, the only freshman in Kansas history to average 20-plus points per game, and all the players that they've had there in that storied program, and Darryn Peterson, the first freshman to ever do that. As you take a look at the top 5 draft picks in Jazz history, and Darryn Peterson up there with some of the greats in their franchise's history, now trying to make Utah great, and he'll try to get going there with Keontae George and Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, as well as they try to turn things around in Salt Lake City. They ain't walking in Memphis. They're running to the team shop to get a Cameron Boozer jersey right now. Number 3 overall, as expected, 6'9", 250, a unanimous winner, a unanimous National Player of the Year. 5th freshman to win AP National Player of the Year, joining Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, and Cooper Flagg. Those guys were pretty good. Cameron Boozer, very, very good. And back here with our guys, Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. Adam, your grade for this is A+, maybe?
A+.
Let's go.
This is an A+. To have the number 3 pick in the draft and to get the winningest player in modern high school basketball history. This is the last time I will say this. He won 4 high school state championships, 3 Nike EYB championships, a gold medal every time he put on a USA basketball jersey, and a national championship at Christopher Columbus High School. He won every competition he was ever in, and then he was the unanimous player of the year in college basketball. He has an unmatched overlap of size, physicality, skill, and basketball acumen. To get that at number 3 does not happen any other class. Memphis fans, GP, rejoice.
We are. They're thrilled. There's a watch party at FedEx Forum tonight for Grizzlies fans, and a couple of funny things. When Utah was announced selecting Darryn Peterson, the place erupted. And then when the Cameron Boozer pick comes in, it erupts again. This is what the fans wanted. You guys know, I don't have to tell you, we're all friends. It's been rough in Memphis recently. The star franchise player, Ja Morant, has only played 79 games the past 3 seasons and is expected to be moved at some point if the Grizzlies can find somebody to accept him. My kids need a new favorite player. The Jaren Jackson jerseys don't pop the way they used to. The Desmond Bane jerseys don't pop the way they used to. It seems likely that there's going to be a bunch of kids in my community wearing Cameron Boozer jerseys as soon as next week, and hopefully for years to come.
This is a huge, huge moment for Memphis and their fans, as Gary pointed out. To get Cameron Boozer at 3, a guy who could potentially be the best player in this draft when we look up in 5 or 10 years.
Yes, this is going to be a running theme near the top of the draft, Akeem. We got a few more coming, but Cameron Boozer can wind up being the best player in this 2026 epic draft class. He's that talented. He's that unstoppable. I don't care that he's not the most athletic player in the class. I don't care that he's not the guy that seemingly might not have the highest ceiling. You can actually build the case that he does have the highest ceiling, because at this point, he has been the best player of anyone that will be drafted here tonight. From the start of his high school career until now, he has been the best player. Memphis just got the most reliable, durable, unstoppable player that is available in this draft, and they got him with the number 3 overall slot. The Grizzlies, this could be a night that your entire franchise trajectory changes for the better for the next decade, because there's another pick coming, obviously, but you can build around Cam Boozer in the front court. Super exciting stuff.
One thing real quick, you could see what number Cameron Boozer wears. That's a pretty famous number in Memphis, currently occupied by Ja Morant. So I look forward to seeing how those questions get answered later on tonight.
Maybe he'll go to 3. We'll see what he ends up wearing. Avery Johnson wore number 6. It's hanging in the rafters somewhere in San Antonio. And look, Avery, you played in a small market town, right? Memphis also considered a small market. What does this mean for this city, for this franchise?
I think it's unbelievable. I agree. This is an A+. But Gary briefly mentioned it. The big elephant in the room with Memphis is Ja Morant. Is he going to remain on this roster, or are we going to see a 2-man game with Morant and Boozer, which I think it would be incredible with those guys playing, pick and roll together. Zach Edey ducking in on the weak side. I think Boozer, is he going to be able to stretch the floor, when he's at the 4 position, making the NBA 3-point shot? If not, things are going to shrink, especially, and not give Ja Morant as many driving lanes. So I love this pick for Memphis. Memphis needs some good news. My buddy Gary Parrish needs some good news. His son is going to go out and buy a Cameron Boozer jersey. But at the end of the day, what happens with Ja Morant is the biggest question mark for this franchise moving forward.
Gary, I'm curious, do you think that perhaps this could resuscitate Ja Morant and say, hey, now I get to play with a guy of Cameron Boozer's ability? This is going to make both of us better. This is going to up the franchise. Do you think that maybe this is a situation, a turning point for Ja?
I thought turning points for Ja should have come for years now.
Right.
I've been waiting for turning points. I think a lot of people have. That's how we got to this point.
Sure.
I will tell you, just in the spirit of transparency, I follow him on Instagram, and he tweeted a picture looking out over the Mississippi River from the banks of Memphis earlier tonight. I think or at least I hope, this has been a real wake-up call for him, because he was one of the biggest stars in this sport not too long ago. But it doesn't seem that there's a market for him right now at the price at which he's paid. People do not want him. And I've said this for a long time. The best thing for the Memphis Grizzlies and the best thing for Ja Morant would be for Ja Morant to be awesome with the Memphis Grizzlies. If there's a path to that, that is what everybody in Memphis has always wanted. It just so often feels impossible.
Well, we know that Cameron Boozer has certainly excited the fans in Memphis. He's the 11th top 3 pick from Duke since 2011. Caleb Wilson, as expected, selected by the Chicago Bulls with the 4th overall selection, 6'10", 215. He's got that dog in him. He's the first North Carolina player selected in the top 5 since Marvin Williams and Raymond Felton in 2005. And look, Adam, this is no surprise that he goes 4th overall. Your grade is what for the Chicago Bulls on this pick?
This is an A as well, because Caleb Wilson, I think, has a chance to be an all-star in this league, and to get him at number 4 is just terrific value. I think he's the best athlete in this draft, averaged more dunks per game than anyone in college basketball this year, and more than Zion Williamson did in his year at Duke. He's not just a vertical athlete, though. He can really cover the court, and he averaged 20 and 10 this year at North Carolina, which was way beyond what we expected offensively. There's still so much runway left for this guy to get better. He can extend his shooting range. He can improve his creation. He can utilize those physical tools to be a versatile defender. All of those avenues are available to him to keep getting better. And as you said, he is a dog. He owns that. When the lights come on, GP, this guy is ready to go.
That's the thing. When I see the intensity he brings to the court, the aggressiveness, I love that. When I hear the way he talks about himself and what he'll do for a franchise, I love that. And can we all please try to remember this next year and the year after and every other year? The second the lottery was set, nearly everybody had the top 4 players as these top 4 players. And then there's a lot of noise about this could happen and that could happen, and it ends up unfolding the way a lot of people thought it would unfold. Caleb Wilson in Chicago, this is somebody who should restart a rebuild there in the absence of Billy Donovan. And if the jump shot ever comes around, the Bulls are getting somebody who's got all the other physical tools to not only be an all-star, but I mean a superstar.
Missed the final 9 games of the season due to 2 separate hand injuries, but 19.8 points per game, most by a freshman in UNC history. And you think about all the greats that have gone through the doors at Chapel Hill. Matt, what are the Chicago Bulls getting in Caleb Wilson?
The Chicago Bulls are getting the second player since the retirement of Michael Jordan that gives that fan base real optimism that they can return to relevance. We talked about GP and his Grizzlies. You go to my parents' house, you'll find literally hundreds of photos of a young Matt Norlander just donning Bulls gear every single day of the week. I grew up on this franchise, and this has been, unfortunately, a largely irrelevant one for the past generation. He has got an upside where if it all hits, it all comes together, he develops a reliable perimeter shot, the defense gets even better, which a lot of NBA people I talk to, they are very confident that the solid but not overly outstanding defensive prospect that Wilson was at Carolina will grow and be into a real force, like a real factor here, potentially one of the 5 best defenders in this draft overall. If that happens, in addition to all the stuff that we know is already there, then yes, there is superstar potential here. He's not short on bravado. Nothing but great things about him from the first step he took on campus at Carolina last summer to everything here. Real quick story here. When he was hurt and getting ready to come back, and then he jammed that thumb and he hurt himself again before they played Duke, he was doing basically every physical thing possible to return on his own timeline. And just, sources in the program told me he was utterly dejected and heartbroken, as if he was the 11th guy on the team that barely got to play at all and was just so eager and desperate to be able to return and play for Carolina. Instead, he was robbed of that, didn't play in the NCAA tournament. We'll see him in the Bulls uniform soon. This is, I agree with Fink, outstanding.
Chicago Bulls get a good one in Caleb Wilson, 6'10", 215. He's got that dog in him. He's going to be a bull in a china shop as he's going to look to make a name for himself in the NBA. From being ranked 150th out of high school to a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, Keaton Wagler, 5th overall to the LA Clippers, going to play alongside Darius Garland. We'll see how that works out in LA. Back here on CBS Sports HQ, Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish, Hakeem Dermish alongside. Okay, the draft has officially begun at 5 here. The Clippers go with Wagler. Your grade is what, Adam?
This is a B+. I think this is very solid. This was the logical choice, given that there were 4 point guards that were up next on the CBS Sports big board, and you had to try and pair one of them with Darius Garland. Wagler gives you a highly skilled big guard, which means he has on-off ball versatility. And why that's important is because he's got the shooting, he's got the size, but his superpower is his feel for the game. He should have no problem fitting next to Darius Garland.
Yeah, I think he's a good fit next to Garland because Garland's small and he's a bigger guard. That doesn't take much analysis to figure out. Just a terrific story. Comes to Illinois, is mostly unknown, plays off the ball early, gets switched onto it. The rest, as they say, is history, ends up in the Final Four. This is the way most people had the first 5 picks going, and so there's no surprises so far.
Keaton Wagler, what a story here. 150th coming out of high school, 5th overall. Pretty incredible, the story and the meteoric rise for Wagler.
There is not a modern comparison. We have never had a player ranked as low, and credit to Fink.
Yeah.
You made
credit
sure
to Fink. Come on now.
Top 150 in his high school graduating class. Never been a player ranked that low that the next year turned around. Top 5 pick. Awesome story. And the Clippers, there was some buzz about whether they would actually trade. I never thought they would. And I was also told, given some of the uncertainty with Mikel Brown Jr.'s medical, that it was really felt as though Wagler was going to be the pick here. I think Fink is on the same wavelength with me there. And pairing him with Garland makes a lot of sense. Although I got to be honest, guys, I wanted a little chaos. 1 through 4 we knew, and then Wagler had become like the expected one. We get no shock in the top 5, unfortunately, and I think that's going to be the same case with 6, and I think it's going to be the same case with at least 7. But so it goes, and it speaks to the overall collective strength at the top of this draft class.
We're about to get a run on point guards here. Avery Johnson, welcome back here. Avery, your reaction here to Keaton Wagler going 5th overall to the LA Clippers.
Was what, 5'8", as a freshman in high school, and he grew to 6'6". He's come a long way. I'm just wondering where all these guys getting this money for these fancy suits. I'm still waiting for my name to get called.
Avery, NIL, that's where it comes from.
That's right. In the 1988 draft, I'm still waiting for my name to get called. But I like this pick. I love his size. You know, he's good on and off the ball. Obviously, he's got to get a little bit stronger. But hey, in the NBA, that's not too hard if you're willing to put in the work. But I love this kid's basketball IQ. He makes plays the way he sees the floor, the way he passes his teammates open, mid-range game. He'll get better defensively. And if the Clippers plan on keeping Darius Garland around, who knows? This kid could be the starter in 2 or 3 years.
Keaton Wagler, the 4th freshman ever to lead a Final Four team in points per game and assists per game. Jalen Rose, Brandon Knight, and Cooper Flagg, the other to do that. So Keaton Wagler to the Clippers, 5th overall. As we say that, Mikel Brown, the guard out of Louisville, headed to the Brooklyn Nets with the 6th overall selection, 6'5", 190. First Louisville player drafted in the first round since Donovan Mitchell in 2017. Keep in mind, he missed 14 games last season due to a lingering back issue. But, man, when he played, he was electric. Hit 10 three-pointers in a game against NC State in February. Set the ACC freshman scoring record for a single game with 45 points. Adam, your grade here for Mikel Brown to Brooklyn, one of 2 picks here in the first round for the Brooklyn Nets.
I'm going with a B, and here's why. Because 3 to 4 years from now, we will either look back on this and say this was a great pick, it was an A because he lived up to his upside, and his upside is as one of maybe the best guard out of these 4 freshmen because he's that naturally skilled. He's a late bloomer. You heard Avery talk about Keaton Wagler's late growth spurt. This guy did it even more. He was 5'8" when he was a high school sophomore. He's grown 8 inches, and now he's got the athleticism to match. So naturally skilled. He can shoot it. He's got more bounce than many people give him credit for. I think that's the missing part of the evaluation. But we just don't know how durable he is. He played at 4 high schools in 4 years. There were some red flags in that medical, which I'm sure Matt can speak to. If they pass on guys like Darius, Acuff, and Kingston Wagler, and he does not have durability in the league, this pick will not be looked back on well. But if he is healthy, this could be a home run.
I love the top 5 in this draft. I also would have taken Mikel Brown 6. So what I'm about to say might sound weird, but if this really pops the way it can, he'll be one of the 5 best players from this draft. The upside is up there. Like I said, pre-draft, if I just sent you the best 5 minutes of every prospect,
yes,
you would have this guy in the top 5. The problem is there's a lot of minutes of him sitting in street clothes too, and that's a real problem. So this makes sense. In a string of league guards that are going to come off the board, this is the order in which most people had them. Peterson, Wagler, Brown, and now we get to go see what happens next, but I think Matt probably knows that.
Why should Brooklyn Nets fans be excited about Mikel Brown Jr.?
Because he'll probably have the opportunity to really turn it on and light it up and maybe give, I say that fan base, which honestly has never felt smaller in the wake of the Knicks winning the championship. It just is the reality of it. But give those Brooklyn Nets fans, wherever you are.
We're going to give those few people something to be excited about.
We have a few in this building.
There
actually
are dozens of us, dozens. And so those Nets fans, they're going to get a talent that could hit. But listen, I refuse to sit up here on this desk over the course of the entire first round and rosy up every single pick. There is a chance this doesn't necessarily work out. It did not go smoothly at Louisville. He had the back issue. The medical wasn't awful. It just wasn't super duper clean. Regardless of that, he overcomes it. He's a top 6 pick. But can they put a lot of the drama that undeniably happened behind the scenes at Louisville behind them, step into the professional ranks, and try to become a face of the franchise level player? I would not have taken Brown in this spot. I think Darius Acuff has the higher ceiling overall. We're not going to have to wait long to be talking about him. But nevertheless, the Nets take a swing here. They've got multiple picks, so the idea is we think that the upside with Brown is going to be worth it with whoever we're going to pair him with, and so they go with him in that spot.
Avery, did the Brooklyn Nets just make a mistake drafting Mikel Brown Jr. over Darius Acuff?
I agree with Matt. I would have taken Acuff here, and I know we're going to talk about him in a minute, but I had Mikel Brown, going 8. I didn't have him, going this high, but he's a terrific player. He's, obviously questionable with some of his shot selections, but, really good ball handler. The Brooklyn Nets, I once was the Brooklyn Nets first coach to coach in the Barclays Center for the Nets. They drastically need some good news. So we'll see. This kid, I think he can go either way. You know, he'll be a perennial all-star. And then if he doesn't play up to his potential, this could potentially, you know, be a bust going, you know, with the 6th pick.
Well, Mikel Brown Jr. headed to the Brooklyn Nets. Darius Acuff Jr., the guard out of Arkansas, 6'3", 190, SEC Player of the Year. First player since Pete Maravich in the 1969-70 season to lead the SEC in points per game and assists per game. This kid is electric. The question is about his defense, but man, when you watch him this season, you are going to be impressed. We are all been impressed with him all throughout the college basketball season. During the NCAA tournament, he had 88 points, most points through 3 NCAA tournament games by a freshman all time. The grade is what here for the Sacramento Kings in this pick?
This is an A-, and I was trying not to give A's, but this is exactly what Sacramento would have wanted. He was atop their board. They would have taken him as high as 5 if the lottery had worked out this way. They contemplated trading up to get him. As it stands, they didn't have to do that. Now they get the most NBA-ready offensive hub of these 4 freshman one-and-done guards. Couldn't have worked out better for the Kings.
It's hard giving these grades because you don't want to give straight A's, but when the franchises keep doing what you expected them to do or thought they should do, it's hard not to. I lived this life once upon a time. I'm 8 for 8 so far, or 7 for 7 so far, whatever it is. So, listen, this makes a ton of sense, and it's been tracking this direction for a while. The only question was whether he would still be on the board when Sacramento was selecting. He clearly was. This was headed this direction.
Yeah, it was. This felt about as telegraphed as it could possibly be with Acuff going there. If he hits, and I understand it's Sacramento, and if we're really going to bring you into league circles, like there's a lot of agents that just don't root for their clients to go to Sacramento because it feels like a black hole. Can he be a player that can pull this franchise out of irrelevancy? I would assume Fink and GP agree with me, and Hakeem maybe you as well. When I watched this guy play last season, he brought as much joy to me as someone who just loves college basketball. The short list in the past decade, guys, I just love what he does on a basketball floor. I get it. He's a net negative defender. I understand all of that, but he made more tough shots, huge leader, didn't come out of the games. Real quick, GP, there was at one point, Calipari tells a story where he really should have been sitting for a game or two because he had an issue with his foot. Flat out refused to do it because he didn't want to have another loss on the resume to impact their overall NCAA tournament chances. Love the pick.
I think Norlander touched on something that's important, particularly connected to Sacramento, because as we've noted, I live in Memphis. The Grizzlies are also a small market franchise that, if you follow Twitter, you know former players take shots at every once in a while. I can't tell you how much it meant once upon a time when it sounded like John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane just wanted to be in Memphis. They didn't want LA, Chicago, New York, Miami. They wanted to be there. Small market fan bases genuinely appreciate that when somebody wants them as badly as they want that person. And Acuff sort of checked that box in the pre-draft process of being comfortable to go to Sacramento, and that's going to make him even more popular than he otherwise would have been.
Avery, what impresses you the most here about Darius Acuff Jr.?
The shot creator. This kid plays at all 3 levels. I love his size in terms, you know, he's a pretty strong kid. You know, he's not a weak body frame. So I like the way he plays the game. He's a much better ball distributor than he gets credit for. You know, along with another guy that John Calipari, Coach Anthony Davis, you know, he was freshman of the year in the SEC and player of the year. That's some rarefied air. I know Brandon Miller also did it when he was playing at Alabama, but this kid is, he's special. And what we've seen from a guy like Jalen Brunson, we know that it's possible for 6'1", 6'2" guard can lead their team to an NBA championship. And Sacramento, especially, you know, I know De'Aaron Fox struggled in the finals, but when he left Sacramento, it left a big void at the point guard position. And now Darius Acuff can go and carve out his own career. And hopefully he'll want to stay in Sacramento for the long haul and not ask for a trade similar to what De'Aaron Fox did a couple of years ago.
None of us would be surprised if we look up in 5 years and go, wait, Darius Acuff Jr. went 7th to the Kings. He fell all the way to 7th. This guy's awesome. The run on guards continues. The Atlanta Hawks selecting freshman Kingston Flemings out of Houston, 6'4", 190, first team all Big 12. Most points per game, 16.4 by a freshman in Houston program history as he goes 8th overall to the Atlanta Hawks. All right, back here with Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. Kingston Flemings, 8th overall to Atlanta. Your grade is what?
B+. I really like this pick. I think that Kingston Flemings is the best athlete of these 4 one-and-done freshman guards. I also think it's notable that they went consecutively 5, 6, 7, and 8. There was some real hesitation that could come to fruition, but it did, in line with our CBS Sports big board. So high-level athlete. Got great pace in the open floor, also a big-time leaper. He can get to his pull-up whenever he wants. He's the best defender of this group. Now, the swing skill is the shooting. A year ago, if you asked me in high school, I would have said he's close to a non-shooter. Now, he made shots at an incredibly high rate this year at Houston, albeit in very low volume. So the degree to which that can translate to the NBA game will ultimately dictate just how high his ceiling is. But I think he's got a very high floor. He's almost guaranteed to be a solid NBA player. And if the shooting holds up combined with his athleticism, he could be an all-star.
And the 39% from 3, low volume, but still, that's encouraging. And yes, definitely all-star potential. An athlete who can shoot and then has all the off-the-court stuff that you desire. Like Kelvin Sampson, loved this guy. Everything you read and hear about him suggests you're getting a solid human. I sometimes say this about basketball prospects to try to emphasize this point. He's an awesome basketball player. I'd like him to be the point guard for my favorite team. But if he happened to live next door to me, too, he seems like the type of person you wouldn't mind having as a neighbor. That's a great package. Atlanta did something good here.
Matt, this was one of our favorite players to watch all season long.
And without a doubt, you want to know one of the biggest reasons why we got this run on point guards, and they are point guards in the common modern sense, but the one that's actually best wired to truly want to get out and distribute and make and be so creative. Like Flemings can cut into the lane whenever he wants. He is the best pure point guard of all the ones that are going to go here in the top 10, 11 picks overall. So a wonderful get. And from Atlanta's part of it here, here's what I was told. They were sweet on Aday at the start of this process. He kind of faded a little bit over the past week or so. They ultimately came down to Brayden Burries versus Kingston Flemings, and they were more comfortable with the defensive upside and the fact that he was a natural point guard. And so they had, in the past 24 hours in that organization, really rallied around the idea of making Kingston Flemings the future of their organization at the 1.
Kingston Flemings, 8th overall to the Atlanta Hawks. We have our first surprise of this NBA draft. 9th overall, the Dallas Mavericks just hired Dusty May as their head coach, and he is taking one of his former players, Morez Johnson Jr. And look, when we do all this pre-draft coverage and we tell you that Morez Johnson Jr. is skyrocketing up draft boards and his combine measurables were incredible and he looks great, 6'9", 250, 6'10" in shoes, and Adam Finkelstein tells you don't be surprised if he goes in the top 10. Are you surprised, though, now that it's happened on draft night?
Yeah, I'm surprised he went in the top 10. And coming out of the combine, I said, don't be surprised if he gets taken in the lottery. Now, keep in mind, a month ago, Dusty May was the same guy trying to convince this guy to go back to college, and now he just picked him with the 9th pick in the NBA draft. And I know that the choice ultimately comes down to Masai Ujiri and Mike Schmitz, but there is some irony there. Listen, this guy is going to be a role player extraordinaire. He's going to be able to play the 4 or the 5. He's rugged. He's strong. He's got a 7'3" wingspan. We saw some defensive versatility that's been there all the way since high school. And this year there was offensive versatility to match because he showed the first signs of shooting potential. This just feels a little high to me. And I don't know. I know they just hired his college coach, and I know Dusty May knows him better than I do, but I feel like if this was their guy, you trade down, you pick up another asset, and you can still probably get him.
So what you're saying, this sounds like a B?
C+.
C+.
There we go. That's what I like to see from you.
Okay.
Don't run from it.
Okay.
Okay, now he's becoming a little tougher grader.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just what a story. Just first and foremost, imagine if this could have been said, because this is what we now know is true. Imagine if this could have been said when Morez Johnson gets in the transfer portal after a season at Illinois. And Dusty May says, hey, come to Michigan. We'll win a national championship together. And then I'll jump to the NBA. You can be a top 10 pick. Come with me. I mean, it's bananas. It's bananas. But that is what's happened.
You forgot the part about stay with me. Never mind. Let's go together. Yeah.
And so I think Fink just made a great point. If I value Dusty May to the extent that the Mavericks clearly do, I want to listen to him. He's just been around this. Everybody says this guy's a lottery pick, and you've just been around him more than anybody else. If you're telling me we should do this, I'm going to pay attention to that. But like Fink said, I might have then tried to start moving back a little bit and see if I can get an extra asset and get the guy. But what other front office members will tell you is that's all cute, but you can also mess up. He could go at the next pick.
Or
the
wait
next
2 days to announce Dusty as your head coach.
I'm not going to complain about if you're reaching a little, but you get your guy. If you got it right, you'll feel good about it.
Did he get the right guy?
Well, I'll tell
at
you
9?
this. One, we did a mock podcast together, and I had just gotten some info that Dallas was going to maybe try and put a premium on a front court thing. These guys gave me grief for it on the show, and that's what winds up happening here. Now, we're going to own what we get right, what we get wrong.
Norlander.
Not quite. The feeling was they would go Mara at 9.
Yeah.
There's so much happening here right now. The fact that this is the highest drafted Michigan Wolverine is wild. I do agree it's a little bit of a swing here. He will lean into his role. Like, I don't think it's more likely than not that Morez Johnson Jr. winds up as one of the 10 most impactful overall draft picks in this loaded draft. But he joins up with Dusty May. Obviously, Dusty gave them everything they could have possibly wanted on this. And I'll just say from the Dusty May angle of this, there must have been a half dozen times this entire season where, for one reason or another, I was talking to Dusty on a game or whatever, and he never didn't sing the praises of who he calls Rez, like every single time with this guy. So I'm not surprised in that element of it, and kind of cool that we've got a Michigan reunion going down to Dallas there. And we know at least one person that was with Dusty May at Michigan in Ann Arbor last season is going to join him in Dallas. We'll, of course, wait and see if anyone from the coaching staff will also take the trip down there as well.
All right, let's go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area right now and check in with Avery Johnson. Avery, what do you think of this pick? This is the first official surprise of this 2026 NBA draft. All right, Avery, we're having a challenge with your microphone. Let's open that microphone up and let's try that one more time. Your reaction here to Morez Johnson Jr. going to the Dallas Mavs at 9.
It's a copycat league. At the end of the day, you got the Villanova boys that went to New York and won a championship. They won a championship at Villanova. 3 players that have spent time together. Dusty May wanted to draft someone that he won a championship with that's going to star in his role. They're not asking Morez Johnson to come in and be Cooper Flagg, but they're asking him to come in from a defensive standpoint, switch pick and rolls, be the last line of defense, be that rugged rebounder, add that physicality. Because in the front court, you don't know. They may be moving off of some of these guys. Daniel Gafford is probably not going to be with Dallas next year. So you got to have that depth at the front court position. That's what Morez Johnson is going to provide. He's a known quantity for his coach, who he just won a championship with. That's what this is all about.
Had a double-double in the Natty, helping Michigan beat UConn in that national championship, a key piece for that Michigan Wolverine team. Now they're hoping he'll be a key piece for that Dallas Mavericks squad paired alongside Cooper Flagg. Top 10 is complete. The Milwaukee Bucks with the 10th overall selection, taking Brayden Burries, the freshman guard out of Arizona, 6'4", 205. He was a first-team All-Big 12. First Arizona freshman ever to average 16 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists per game, helping lead Arizona to its first Final Four since 2001. Back here with the guys, Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. All right, Brayden Burries, 10th overall. They know they have another pick coming up at 13. Your grade is what for this pick?
B+. I really like this for the Bucks. I don't think they expected Burries to be on the board here. What he is an NBA-ready two-way guard. He can get downhill, he can make open threes, he can defend his position, and that frame is going to allow him to play immediate minutes. Now, on the heels of that trade, you've got Tyler Harrow there, but there are questions about whether he is there long-term. I know this is a homecoming and everybody's happy about it, but if they can flip his salary for more cap relief, for more draft assets, they would do that, and that would give Burries an opportunity to step into an increased opportunity right away.
To Fink's point, we don't have to live and die with mock drafts, but most mock drafts had the first 8 players in this actual draft coming off the board as they did. Mm-hmm. Number 9 in most was Brayden Burries. And so if you're Milwaukee, I think this time last week, you probably think he's off the board, or at least there's a good chance he's off the board when you're selecting. But then the Mavericks hire the Michigan coach. They decide to use the 9th pick on a Michigan player, and suddenly a guy who was maybe not expected to be available to you is there. You snatch him up. This is great. This is a pick. This is who I would have taken at 9. So if he's available at 10, this makes a lot of sense to me.
It's a solid pick. I mean, he's a very humble young man. The most impressive thing to me about Brayden Burries is that he got off to a very slow start, and it did not rattle him. By the end of the season, he was Arizona's clearly its most valuable, reliable, best player overall. Really good defender. I don't know if he has like ultra, star upside. It isn't. They go with him here at 10 because they know he's not going to be there in just a few picks from now. But it's a solid overall pick. I enjoyed my interactions with him all season long, and Tommy Lloyd was as effusive in his praise on Burries as just overall the way he carried himself on and off the floor as really any player that I've ever talked to Tommy about.
Avery, let's bring it back in here. Your reaction, Brayden Burries, 10th overall to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now you get to pair him alongside Tyler Hero.
I like this pick, and I agree. We don't know how long Tyler Hero is going to remain with the Milwaukee Bucks. So this kid can slide right in. And it's funny when somebody's going to be turning 21 during the NBA season, they seem a little old compared to some of these 19-year-olds. But he's a solid kid, two-way player. I would like to see him get to the free throw line a little bit more. He got to the free throw line less than 5 attempts a game, especially with that body, as Matt alluded to. So I like this pick for Milwaukee. Milwaukee needs some good news at this stage as they're basically in a, try to remodel and reconstruct this roster with Giannis being traded to Miami. But Burries, I think he's got a very translatable game to the NBA level.
When you see what the Milwaukee Bucks have done, Gary, here in trading away Giannis, and it was almost as if he forced their hand and this relationship was going to end. And now you have this fresh restart because you've been a part of that, seeing what's happened in Memphis. And you get a guy like Brayden Burries to be a solid guy from day one. What does that mean to add some stabilization to your franchise?
Well, first and foremost, I think at this point in this draft, he was best prospect available. So I'm never going to complain about a franchise simply saying, we took who we think is the best prospect available, because this is the guy who most people thought was that. It's just a reminder that they are hitting a real button on a reset here. They won a championship with Giannis. He got 2 MVPs, but he was ready to move on, and they were going to accommodate him. I like what they did, passing on the Jaylen Brown package and instead going young, because you've already had a not good enough team with a top 10 player in the world. You're breaking that up right now to what? Have another one? So I like that Milwaukee went this direction to get all these picks and young players from Miami, and now Brayden Burries gets to be a part of the rebuild.
All right, the top 10 picks in the books. Brayden Burries, 10th overall to Milwaukee Bucks. Say it with me now, Golden State Warrior fans. Yaxel Lendeborg. Yaxel Lendeborg. Not Yaxel Lendeborg, not Yaxel Lendenborg. Yaxel Lendeborg. 24 years old when the season starts. Clearly they want somebody who can produce right away in perhaps the final season of Steph Curry and Draymond Green. And Adam Finkelstein, 11th overall, Golden State Warriors going with Yaxel Lendeborg out of Michigan, national champion, Big Ten Player of the Year. Your grade is what?
Yeah, I think he's one of the more versatile two-way players in this draft. He, as you said, he's going to be 24, though. My issue is I thought Mara would have been a better fit. I think Nate Ament would have been a better long-term proposition. So I'm going to give it a B-. But what I go to is the fact that he can help them try and earn wins right now. The question is going to be 5 years from now when they look back on this, will they say, we wish we went with Nate Ament because Steph's retired at this point, and Ament would have been the better long-term asset?
I don't disagree with the idea of that, but I think what they're working with in Golden State right now is you have to be able to look Steph Curry in the eyes and tell him you're doing everything you can.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to look Draymond in the eyes and tell him you're doing everything you can. And that's what this pick represents. Yaxel will be 24 years old when the season starts, and that is not ideal for a rookie. That's why other franchises wouldn't touch this with the 11th pick, and maybe not even the 15th. But if Golden State, whether you can actually get it done or not, the goal is still to try to put the best pieces around Steph Curry right now to be as good as you can be. And in this moment, it looks like the reigning Big Ten Player of the Year is probably that guy.
Yaxel's nickname is the Dominican LeBron. And there's not a crazy situation to think that he could be actually playing with the LeBron in Golden State. Like Dominican LeBron, Steph, Draymond Green.
We'll see if the LeBron thing happens. That's going to be wild.
Ronnie.
I do love this pick. Yaxel Lendeborg enters summer league, essentially, in my opinion, right now as one of the 3 or 4 best overall basketball players. He was top 3 basketball player in college hoops last season. He was the centerpiece for the national champions and one of the best national champion teams rosters we've seen in the past generation. Now, ironically enough, he got hurt in the Final Four and wasn't at his best self on the biggest stage. But I was told, going back weeks, that Golden State and actually the team after this, Oklahoma City, were looking into Yaxel significantly to the point where his camp was hopeful that he was going to be in one of those 2 spots. There had been some rumoring as though he might be slipping to 15 or 16, but they stuck to their guns. I thought this was a really wise move. Get someone who's experienced that can contribute right away. He's not going to be the difference between Golden State suddenly playing in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals next season, I don't think. But I do love the pick. I just love when franchises say, you know what? Age be damned, we know what he can do, and we want him to help our franchise immediately. Last thing, I remember going to players there. Remember how awesome Michigan looked? I remember when I was talking with now interim head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Mike Boynton. I said, tell me about Yaxel. The first sentence out of his mouth, I haven't forgot, he said, maybe the best human I've ever coached, which is a huge statement considering where he was as a high school misfit to his own description.
Yeah, a lot of the credit goes to his mother who really pushed him, Avery. Here's a kid playing video games, doesn't have the work ethic that you'd hope you'd want your son to have, and he develops into a national champion and a Big Ten Player of the Year, and now the 11th overall pick headed to Golden State.
He was,
and I love
not
his
even
dad. JUCO, played for Andy Kennedy down at UAB, and obviously Dusty May at Michigan. This kid's got some scars. He's got some scars, but he's played through it. Nothing has come easy. I love his size. I know his age scared some people away, but this is a kid that you can plug in to the Golden State Warriors lineup, wherever you want to plug him in, and he'll be ready to play day one. And this is not the easiest offensive system, right? I played with Steve Kerr on our 99 championship team, and I know Steve, coached against him. This is a difficult system when you're playing with Steph Curry. The ball movement, player movement, point, small ball. He can play on and off the ball. He's got to know how to set screens and move. I think this was an A-, Adam.
Okay.
I love this pick for the Golden State Warriors.
Gary, I'll give you last
I don't know
word
about
here
7
on
years
Yaxel
from now.
Lendeborg.
I'm talking about today.
Well, Avery's got a couple more words. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just reemphasize that, at this age and at this point in Steph Curry's career, this is probably the best match that you could do at Golden State right now. And now, on paper, there is nobody that's going to look at this roster with or without Yaxel Lendeborg and say, yeah, this is a real threat to San Antonio in the West or even Oklahoma City in the West when everybody's healthy. But as you know, in the NBA, almost never is everybody healthy. So what you try to do is, in the last years of Stephen Curry's career, put the best roster around him to just give him a shot. Just give him a shot every time until it's over, and that's clearly what they're doing here.
Aday headed to Oklahoma City, 12th overall, and really this is no surprise considering what the Spurs did to the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. We're going to go get a 7'3" guy, 255, a national champion, a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. So Aday headed to OKC, which Michigan now the first national champion to produce 3 first-round picks in a single draft since Villanova in 2018. Aday to the OKC Thunder. Your grade is what, Adam?
This is an A-, and I'm trying not to give A's, but I don't think OKC really thought there was much of a chance that Mara would be here. The Thunder's challenge going into this offseason is that they have to offload salary and simultaneously try and get over the hump against a Spurs team that is only going to get better as Wemby and Castle and Harper continue to get older. And Mara is someone who will help them do that. He's 7'3" without shoes on. He's the best true center in this draft, a rim protector from day one, but he's also got some offensive versatility because he can step away from the rim and pass. He can open the floor up a little bit. I think he's going to allow Chet Holmgren to play some more minutes at the 4. If they can bring Hartenstein back, all of a sudden now they've got more optionality in their front line than they had this year, which prevented them from being able to get past the Spurs.
The Hartenstein question is what makes this the most sensible because you just don't know if he's going to be on the roster or not. If he is, great. If not, then you've got this guy to eat up those minutes and also, like Fink said, to play some 5 and move Chet over to the 4. We all watched the Western Conference Finals.
We did.
We saw what that looked like. Chet Holmgren might be one of the best bigs in the world, but he looked bothered by the presence of Victor Wembanyama. Maybe he grows out of that someday, but on some level, this is Oklahoma City saying, if you don't, this is our next attempt to get that guy under control.
I completely agree with Fink. I don't think OKC thought Morez was going to be here at 12. His forecast was a little bit all over the place. Teaming him up with Chet Holmgren, they still have Thomas Sorber's on the roster, Isaiah Hartenstein's on the roster. Fascinating roster situation up front there in OKC just in general. But Mara making this leap after being a bit player at UCLA, a year and a half ago is incredible. And then let's just acknowledge what's happened here. You have had three picks from the same championship roster, 3 big men, oh, by the way. Dusty May went all in on winning with his bigs, and it pays off by having 3 lottery picks in what was the best front court in college basketball last season. Just a quick college hoops angle on this. I just wonder how this, if it does, really portend other trends in roster building. Next season, we've seen some of that in the portal, but even the year after that, because Dusty May cracked the code, and all these players pay off in a massive way. All of them were transfers, and look what he did to change their lives.
3 non-freshman lottery picks from the same team, the first time since 2007, Florida Gators.
Phenomenal stat.
It tells you how good of a coach Dusty May is. And let's go to our coach, Avery Johnson. Aday Mara, they'd like his nickname to be the Wemby Stopper, right, Avery?
Wemby stopper?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Wemby is not losing sleep. He is not losing sleep over Aday Mara getting traded by OKC. He's not losing sleep over Chet Holmgren. You can put them all out. Hartenstein, you can put all 3 of them on the floor. This is not moving Wemby. Wemby right now is thinking about how the Spurs, how we gave up 16 and 29-point leads to the New York Knicks. And he's looking to get back and get stronger and tougher and better and try to figure that out. So, again, good, solid pick for OKC, but this pick is not really moving the needle. I think they got to figure out what do they want to do with Chet Holmgren. Is he going to be some sort of a trade piece? Because he got really exposed. And if they're going to be battling the Spurs the next 5 years, and there's a possibility there's going to be some sort of a fear factor going up against Wemby, maybe this is some sort of they think an insurance policy, but this insurance is not going to be paying off very much because the Spurs, this is not making the Spurs lose any sleep.
I'm not talking about losing sleep. I'm just talking about stopping him or containing him at least at some point during a Western Conference Finals in the future. All right, look, this is historic for Michigan, right? First national champion to produce 3 first-round picks in a single draft since Villanova in 2018. And Matt, you talk about how significant this is for Michigan. Now they just lost their head coach, but to see these 3 men go in the first round means what?
I think it means that there's still some level of rational evaluation in the NBA, and that all of these players were valued for what they did, but what they're projected to be. The fact that none of them were freshmen. They're all older players. Morez Johnson Jr.'s, I believe, the youngest of the group. Their Yaxel obviously maximized his college eligibility. And the fact that they weren't, none of these players are primary ball handlers. They aren't guards. They aren't wings. Yaxel's got a little bit of a power wing to his game, but Mara's obviously a 5 through and through. Morez Johnson is a 4 through and through, essentially. All the more interesting that we have 3 guys, non-freshmen. That stat from Fink is awesome. We haven't seen this in almost 2 decades, and coincidentally enough, the last time we saw it, it was with a championship-level kind of team with those Florida Gators.
Norlander, I would just add to this, another thing it's doing is you're watching franchises in real time pass on upside guys to just say, I know what this guy can do. We need impactful role players. There's no championship team that doesn't have them, and we're watching franchises use lottery picks on guys that actually project as just high-level role players.
If I can just hop in real quickly here, we're going to eventually hear Nate Ament's name called, but a year ago at this time, he was thought to be a top 6, top 7 pick, and he didn't have the greatest first season. He might wind up being one of the 7 or 8 best players in this draft, but there was enough inconsistency with his past 2 months in addition to what happened to the season. To GP's point, there are some guys that have some high upside swings. They're still waiting to hear their names called after having a short detour through college.
One step further, reigning champions with 3 draft picks in the top 12, 2026 Michigan, 2007 Florida, Al Horford, Joakim Noah, and Brewer. That's pretty impressive right there. Michigan joining company right there as Aday Mara, the latest off the board from the Michigan Wolverines. Back here on CBS Sports HQ on the clock. I like big bucks, and I cannot lie. Nate Ament is a big buck, even though right now he's wearing a Miami Heat hat. 6'10", 207, 16.7 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 2.3 assists per game on nearly 40% shooting last season for Tennessee. And now he is headed to Milwaukee, even though his hat and all of the TV graphics will say he's headed to Miami because it cannot become official. You're probably sitting watching, going, why can't they change that? Well, because it's not official. Even though we all want it to change, he's going to take pictures in a Miami Heat hat. He's going to have graphics over his name to the Miami Heat, but he's going to Milwaukee. And what grade's he getting?
B+, and darn close to an A- here. This is a player that I had them mocked to take it at 10, and I think if Brayden Burries were not on the board, they probably would have taken Nate Ament. They were really high on his upside. And what you have here is a player who was a top 5 high school recruit coming out of the high school basketball last year, had an up and down, dare I say, volatile year at Tennessee because of a lot of contextual issues. I thought he played out of position. He played in bad spacing with 2 bigs who were non-shooters. But you're talking about a 6'10" combo forward who's got a pretty high floor and still a higher ceiling. So if you're Milwaukee and you come out of this draft with Nate Ament and Brayden Burries, you're feeling really good about yourself. And the other thing that's really important here is if you know Nate Ament, he is a player who will not go out and seize the opportunity, but if one is put in front of him and he is pushed into it, he's capable of taking it. Now he's in a Milwaukee situation where there are very clear immediate minutes at that 4 and 3 position. You put him next to Kel'el Ware and you hope that is your front court of the future.
Yeah, Ament, when you talk about high ceilings of one-and-done prospects, he's like in that conversation with the guys we saw come off at the top of the draft. It's just that people are less willing to bet on it because we didn't see it consistently as much as we've seen it with the other guys. But the potential is there, and I'm with Fink. I like this for the Bucks. They ended up with 2 players a lot of people thought were going in the top 10 with top 13 picks. I think that's a win the day after you moved on from your franchise MVP.
Yeah, this is one that could pay off. He was underwhelming. I've never been the biggest Nate Ament fan relative to how he has been talked about. Like, he could hit, he could grow to be a 6'10" and a half reliable stretch 4 if he puts it all together. Just didn't have it there. He had the ankle issue. His stock was all over the board, and just talking to a variety of different executives over the past week and a half, no one really had a great guess on where he was going to land until the Bucks made that Giannis deal, and then you started to hear like they're almost certainly going to be taking him. I agree with Fink. I actually wondered if they were going to swing on him at 10. That franchise has got to be really quite happy with the idea that they're going to get 2 first-round picks here, and that if Ament hits, like they get him at 13, a little less money overall. We'll see if it winds up panning out in general, and we'll see if the best of what's to come with him is at the next level.
Avery, do you like the pivot here for the Bucks? They trade away Giannis. They know that they weren't probably going to keep him. They, in fact, trade him. They get a nice haul back, including this 13th overall pick. They use Brayden Burries and now Nate Ament. Your reaction to this selection?
I love this pick. Nate Ament was one of my favorite players in the draft. We know the job that Coach Barnes did with Kevin Durant at Tennessee, and I think he did a really good job with Nate at Tennessee. Obviously, Coach Barnes had Kevin Durant at Texas. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, size, skill, projecting this kid forward, if he has the minutes and stays healthy, this could be one of the surprises in terms of this kid potentially being in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think this kid is that good. He could score the ball. He's got terrific range. He gets to the free throw line. Yes, I know some of his toughness was questionable during certain parts of the season, but I believe, in 3 years when we redraft this class, this kid could very well be someone that we should have taken in the top 5.
Steinbach out of Washington, 6'11", 229. This was a guy that Gary's big on, an underrated guy, and here he is going 14th overall to the Charlotte Hornets, tied for the most double-doubles in D1 last season, had 22 of them. What do you think of this pick, your grade here, Adam?
Yeah, I think it's very solid. I mean, you're talking about one of the best rebounders in the draft. That will be his niche, but he has also got really good instincts when he's playing pick and roll. Now, if the shooting touch turns into reliable floor spacing, three-point shooting, then you've really got something here. And that's an outcome that I don't think we can say is certain just yet. I was able to watch him work out in the pre-draft process. I think the shooting's going to take a little bit of time. But in Charlotte, where they have a positional need at the 4, and now you're getting someone who can play not only that spot, but also give you some spot minutes at the 5, because the way the NBA is trending, he's got the versatility at his size to play some 4 or 5. So this is very, very solid, and I think a good pickup for Charlotte. That's a B.
Like Fink said, Charlotte needed depth in the front court. They needed to add pieces there. This is a smart one for me. Not just a great rebounder. I think that almost understates it. He was top 45 in rebounding percentage on both the offensive end and defensive end throughout the entire country. So you look at a guy who's going to be able to secure missed shots at both ends. And another thing I love about him, I was watching some sort of social media content creation thing earlier where somebody was just asking all of the prospects, various questions. And to him, the question was, what's your best attribute on the court? And very quickly, without having to think, he said, my rebounding. So he knows who he is, and sometimes that's the best thing you can have with a young player. They know exactly what they can do and what they shouldn't try to do just yet.
Good to know your identity.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would have loved to have a camera inside the Hornets war room here, because they were hopeful that Morez Johnson Jr. would be there at 14, and when he was gone at 9, there must have been some big gasps in the room. They needed a big. They would not have had him 4 picks from now, so they had to go. This is not a surprising pick in the context of what we just saw with the runoff of the previous 3 or 4 overall. He played in obscurity. Most people aren't familiar with this game, but he was a reliable double-double, falling out of bed, basically as reliable as any player in the country, Cameron Boozer aside. And so can he grow into the kind of player where he's just going to be able to plug and play and diligently but quietly go about and get his business done? We'll wait and see. It's a completely sensible pick, even though if it's not the sexiest name on the board. Charlotte had to go with the big man at 14, and he was the only practical candidate left on the board.
They have another pick coming up at 18 overall. Hannes Steinbach, the last lottery pick here in 2026 as the 14th overall selection, headed to the Charlotte Hornets. Back here on CBS Sports HQ, on the clock, the Chicago Bulls have selected Dailyn Swain, the forward out of Texas, 6'8", 225 with the 15th overall selection. 17 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists per game. One of 2 Division I players with 17, 7, and 3 averages on 50% shooting last season. The other player, Cam Boozer. So Dailyn Swain headed to the Bulls, their second of 2 first-round picks here. Your grade is what on this one?
Let me first say that Dailyn Swain is a polarizing prospect. I mean, if you believe in him, you think he's got a chance to emerge into one of the best defenders in this class. You love his creation and his rim pressure at his size, and you are hoping that he's going to get better as both a shooter and with a really high turnover rate. This is also proof that the Chicago Bulls front office is valuing exactly what we thought: size, length, and athleticism. I personally don't love this, but what I will tell you is if the Bulls didn't take Swain here, that it was a very strong possibility that Sam Presti took him with OKC with the Thunder's next pick. So I'm going to go C+, but generally speaking, it's a pretty good assumption that Sam Presti's smarter than I am.
And that's the thing. Maybe that's more than you need to know. If Sam Presti was going to take this guy 1 spot below me, in theory, maybe that's an indication that I should snatch him up right now. To be clear, it's higher than I would have done this, but I understand it. 6'7", explosive athlete on both ends of the court, can really drive it. The question's the shot, below 35% from 3. That's not good enough if you actually want to be an elite 2-way player in the NBA. But shooting can come around for players. It often does. And if you are the Bulls here, that's what you're hoping for.
Stock on him was all over the board. Tried to talk about as much of these projected first-round picks with as many NBA people as I could in the past couple of weeks. And I had people thinking that Dailyn Swain wasn't justified in going in the top 23 or 24 overall here. The Bulls obviously very much believe in him. Having watched Texas plenty last season, this was a team that barely squeaked into the NCAA tournament, then obviously made the second weekend and really almost flirted with going to the Elite Eight. There were too many moments and too many games where Dailyn Swain would just disappear for long stretches there. But they're not going to draft him off of that. They're going to draft him off of his measurables, of the understanding that he can be really a guy to flank alongside of Caleb Wilson and to bring some real size and physicality there. We'll see if he hits, but I do think this is objectively around the league. This will be seen as a swing, even if Presti was waiting in the wings there two spots back.
All right, so welcome back former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson. As a player in 1999, helped the Spurs win the NBA championship. Avery, Chicago going with Caleb Wilson, 4th overall. Dailyn Swain here with the 15th pick. Let's talk about the fit now, as they also have acquired Nick Claxton as well as part of a trade a day before. What do you make of the fit and the picks here by Chicago?
Yeah, a little bit surprised Dailyn Swain went here to Chicago. But again, with Caleb Wilson, we'll see what happens. I think they need Swain to be more of a guard. Really struggled turning the ball over, decision-making ability. But this is all about player development. Tiago Splitter, who's a former Spur, is now their head coach. So they're going to lean heavy on their player development. He's got poor shooting mechanics, but it can be corrected. He's still a young player, obviously, but a little bit of a surprise here. The Bulls have a lot of work to do. Obviously, they made the trade, and with Brooklyn Nets, Colin Sexton, who I coach, is there. We'll see, if he's going to be a starter in the backcourt or they're going to bring him off the bench. So I think the Bulls, when you have this many question marks, that normally leads to a team that's not going to make the playoffs, and that's going to be more in a 3-year rebuilding process with a new head coach.
Well, perhaps maybe Chicago's thinking, right, like they got a slam dunk, pun intended, on Caleb Wilson. Maybe you take a swing on a guy like Dailyn Swain because somebody's either going to move up and take him or that he's going to be the next guy off the board.
Potentially, but I just don't see him as being the kind of player that's going to be a franchise-changing player. He could be a nice little piece. I mean, we're in the mid-teens at this point, so who's to say? Like, every single draft practically is littered with a couple of guys that hit and are underdrafted and a couple of guys that just don't hit, period, and had no business being taken in the top 20, let alone where they wind up going. So we'll see. He is an impressive player. He's a little bit on the older side. That's another storyline that's developing here. We've got either freshmen or some pretty grizzled vets here that are coming through the ranks and getting drafted relatively high. I like to see that, but I'm surprised because I just don't think Swain's stock league-wide was surefire, even top 20, let alone going to.
We have our first trade of the first round. Memphis swapping the 16th pick for the 17th pick with Oklahoma City, and they're also getting 2 second-round picks, so some good business here by Memphis. So the Thunder, with the 16th overall selection, taking Bennett Stirtz, the guard out of Iowa, 6'4", 190. This guy did not want to come out of games. 43 games with 40-plus minutes played in the past 2 seasons. That's 18 more than any other Division I player in that span. So, again, our first trade of the first round back here on CBS Sports HQ. Hakeem Dermish alongside Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. All right, so we've sorted out the trade details here. Now let's get a grade for this pick, 16th overall, Bennett Stirtz to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I'm going B+. I think it's really solid. Bennett Stirtz, one of the more reliable players in this draft. He is an excellent shooter. His feel for the game is even better. And in terms of the total transaction, those 2 second-round picks are almost meaningless because OKC has so much draft capital. They literally have too many picks. So being able to move off 2 seconds in order to make sure the guy they want isn't off the board a pick later, that's good business. And for Memphis, conversely, adding 2 second-round picks and presumably still getting the guy you want, which we'll talk about in a moment, also good business.
Vic's got it exactly right. That is what just happened. My wife just texted me from home and was like, this is all getting really confusing, so I'll try to clarify. The Grizzlies clearly have somebody that they want in this spot, and the Thunder clearly had somebody that they wanted and didn't want to risk the Grizzlies taking him first. The Grizz are comfortable moving down, picking up 2 future seconds, and Oklahoma City gets the point guard they want, and now Memphis will get the player it wants at 1 spot lower. And also, not that this is a big deal, but with Zach Kleiman, every little thing matters. He's the general manager in Memphis. You get 2 extra second-round picks because you did this, and also your rookie salary slot is now 1 spot lower than it otherwise would be.
What do you make of this selection, Bennett Stirtz?
Yeah, so Bennett Stirtz was brought in. Oklahoma City brought him in with a slew of other guards, and Stirtz has actually been killing his workouts. His OKC one in particular left some really, really rave reviews, and as a result, I'm not surprised that they make the pick here. Sturtz's camp was pretty confident that he was not going to last beyond 17, which would have been the Thunder's pick there, so he goes here. He is a pure hooper. He's got great natural feel for the game. Some franchises coveted him more than others because he did play under Ben McCollum. He was not even a Division I prospect when he came into college, but he was relied upon as much as really any player in the country last season, played a higher percentage of his minutes than any high major player in all of men's D1 college basketball, and has a really good natural feel. How will it translate to the next level? We wait and see on all of that, but it's certainly a fascinating pick, and it's the kind of place where he can go and he can truly develop. There's not going to be a lot of pressure on him to be an impact player right away. They'll cultivate him and we'll see if it's the right spot for him to actually grow and stick into a second contract there.
All right, let's bring back Avery Johnson, former NBA Coach of the Year. And Avery, I'm sure this is a kid you would have liked to coach, a kid who doesn't want to come out of a game.
Yeah, this kid, I think he's special. I've been following this kid. Obviously, he went, Division II, and then went to Drake, and obviously to Iowa. Called one of his games when he was in the conference tournament playing at Drake. I think he's made of the right stuff. He fits right into the culture. I know Sam Presti. Remember, Sam Presti was with us in San Antonio, and also obviously Clay Bennett, the owner, was a part of our ownership group way back when. So I know when these guys are looking for culture fits. And when you look at, can this guy come in and play day one? Okay, can he come in and come off the bench with Caruso? And who knows what's going to happen from a health standpoint. They traded away Wiggins, but AJ Mitchell got hurt in the playoffs, their third leading scorer, but he fits right into that culture and being able to make plays on the ball, off the ball. He draws double team. And I call this guy a pick and roll specialist. And that's what the NBA is about. And he's a threat. So he's going to cause some coaches some sleepless nights, because when he enters the game, this guy's one of the best two-man pick and roll players in college basketball.
We are wheeling and dealing at the NBA draft in Brooklyn. So Memphis making another trade, trading the 17th pick to Detroit to move down to 21. In addition, they'll get 3 second-round picks as well. So unofficially 5 second-round picks for making a couple of moves. So the Detroit Pistons have this pick at 17, and they are selecting Ebuka Okorie, the guard out of Stanford. 23.2 points per game, third most points per game by a freshman last season, behind only Dybantsa and Darius Acuff Jr. So we've sorted out another Grizzlies trade. Pistons taking Okorie at 17. And what do you think of this pick? What's your grade?
Well, first of all, if I could.
Yes, you
for
can.
Those who have been watching the NBA Draft Intel shows on CBS Sports Network, they know that we've been reporting for weeks now that Detroit was doing more due diligence on Ebuka Okorie than anyone. So what they get here is a guy who's got elite burst. He's got terrific speed with the ball in his hands. He can pressure the rim. He gives them a secondary creator when Cade Cunningham is off the floor. Now, what he doesn't necessarily give you is a great floor spacing shooter. So maybe a Bennett Stirtz, maybe a Christian Anderson could have been a better fit. He has got a higher upside, though. So I'm going to go B. Maybe not the ideal fit right away, but more of an upside swing for Trajan Langdon. Little note here. Trajan Langdon's son attended Brewster Academy last year. Ebuka Okorie also attended Brewster Academy last year, so Trajan Langdon knows exactly what he's getting.
A smart young man, once committed to Harvard, then, of course, played at Stanford. Most of us, I'll speak for myself, couldn't get into either one of those schools.
You can speak for me, too.
You can speak for the entire studio.
Okay, I'll speak for all of us. We are idiots. We couldn't get into these places.
But here we are talking sports.
Let's tell you
We
why
know
this
ball, though.
And listen, and he can also play basketball. Got 33 points 5 different times this past season. That's not normal in college basketball. Led the ACC in scoring. I actually had him mocked to the Pistons at 21, but it appears Detroit realized that, or at least got to a point where they believed he might not be here if we wait. Let's go up and get him. And the Grizzlies are saying, fine, we'll keep moving back few spots, collecting second-round picks. So everybody's working in different directions right now.
Something tells me that Detroit got a scent that Toronto was not going to mess around and not take him at 19, so they move up. There are just a few prospects outside of the lottery that were heavily connected to specific franchises. Fink just hit on it with Detroit and Okorie here. Interesting story in that he was not expected to be a one-and-done player. He immediately hits. Great job out of Kyle Smith, head coach at Stanford. He found a diamond in the rough. He barely had any NIL deal and then took it upon. I talked with Smith about this back in March when I took a trip out there to the West Coast when I was covering that regional. And he took it upon himself very early, just a few games in, to go to the leadership at Stanford and was like, hey, listen, I can't sleep knowing how little we're paying this guy. We have to give him more. And they were like, why? He agreed. It's you don't understand. We cannot have by far the best player in our roster having so little money in our locker room. He was hoping to get him back for a sophomore season. Once it was clear that he was going to be top 25, he stayed in the draft for good. Another terrific story. And this is a great shooter to pair with Cade Cunningham. He does need a little bit of this in Detroit.
You think he's a great shooter?
I think he can grow into a great shooter, and he can be a bucket filler. He's a little more dynamic in talking to people around an organization. I know that they're happy of what he can potentially bring to make them just a little bit more dangerous. Remember, they underachieved in the playoffs.
He had 8 30-point games last season, tied for the most in Division I. All right, so Memphis making some moves here, Gary. What's the thought process? What are we doing here?
Being very smart and deliberate about trying to collect assets. And this is the reputation of Zach Kleiman. I know he's not one of the more famous general managers in the NBA, but if you talk to people in basketball, he is one of the best, if not the best.
Absolutely.
On this night. On this night, he has killed it. And I know second-round picks, people might look at him and say, hey, what are those really worth? But what if I told you in the past 3 drafts, the Grizzlies have added 3 players who are in their rotation right now as second-round picks, Jalen Wells, Cameron Spencer, and Gigi Jackson. So you can actually find players in the second round, or at least the Memphis Grizzlies in recent years have been able to. And beyond that, these second-round picks, you collect them, they just become deal sweeteners. The same way Oklahoma City just used it, the same way Detroit just used it. There will be a draft where the Grizzlies are slotted at 9 and want to move up to 6, and these second-round picks are the type of things that sweeten the deal to get it done. That's right. And so you get into a spot where there are a lot of players that were mocked to the Grizzlies or in that range that are now coming off the board. So if you're moving back, that's fine, but you're not going to be able to get some of the players that some people thought you might be targeting. With Christian Anderson, this is a guy who is recognized as the best shooter in the draft. And so in Charlotte now, you got a guy who is joining Con Knipple on that roster. They're going to be able to shoot it in that state.
This was one of the more fun teams to watch last season, the Charlotte Hornets. Young, now they add Christian Anderson. Adam, what's your grade on this one?
I'm going B+. I think Charlotte's already a very good shooting team, not just Con Knipple, but they've got LaMelo Ball, they've got Brandon Miller, so their floor spacing is extreme, and now they add arguably the best shooter in the draft. My only concern, and I'm a big Christian Anderson believer. In fact, I think he should have gone higher. I think a lot of people probably over-indexed his lack of size. However, I think that this is a little bit a case of giving Charlotte what they already have. This was a spot where if Dailyn Swain were still on the board, I thought he would have made more sense because it gives them rim pressure and defense that they don't yet have. Charlotte's got plenty of shooting. They needed more defense. So this is kind of just adding to what they already have and not really addressing what they don't have. But having said that, I'm a big Christian Anderson fan.
This is one of your favorite players in the draft. I know that very much so. What do you think here of him going to Charlotte?
Love the pick. And for those that might think he's a little undersized, it actually was revealed on his medical when he went to the combine. His growth plates haven't closed. There's actually a hope that Christian Anderson might be able to put on a little more on his frame over the next 12 months of his life and actually prove to be a little bit bigger of a player. That's not insignificant when you're drafting around this point in the first round and what you're trying to get out of it. Listen, he was as reliable of a scorer and combo assist man as really anyone in college basketball last season. I do think he has a healthy shot at emerging as one of the 3 best shooters in this draft. I'm not surprised at all by the pick because I've been told for weeks now that the Hornets were going to target a big and a guard, and the likely combo of that would be the big would come first, and then some point guard was going to come with that 18th pick. And now Charlotte's the beneficiary. I think Memphis blew it here. The Grizzlies had Christian Anderson in multiple times. It was the only place that he took multiple visits to, and there seemed to be that there was a sense of some momentum. We're going to see who the Grizzlies wind up taking as a result here, but Christian Anderson was too talented to fall beyond this pick, in my opinion, and I think he's a great additive piece for a Hornets franchise that might be like top 3, top 4 in terms of, all league pass watchability next season.
All right, let's go to our coach, former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson. Avery, do you agree with Matt here? Is this a miss by Memphis to not take Christian Anderson?
100%. 100%. I'm doubling down on it. This should have been an easy pick for Memphis and good for Charlotte. And I don't know even about the fit with Charlotte, because we got Ball there and Kobe White who made a big shot. We got to see what his future is. Because sometimes when players get drafted, it's like, what team? What's the fit? What's the offensive system? How do they protect certain players defensively? So I think this was a huge miss by Memphis. This kid would have been a tremendous addition to their team. Unlimited range. Obviously, his body needs some work, but his offensive skills, especially at the guard position, running that pick and roll, especially in the middle of the floor. Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think this was a big miss by Memphis.
All right, so Christian Anderson headed to the Charlotte Hornets, 18th overall. Back here on CBS Sports HQ on the clock, the Toronto Raptors select the WCC Freshman of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year, Allen Graves, 6'9", 225 out of Santa Clara. And he is the fourth Santa Clara player drafted in the first round in the last 50 years. What a story for Allen Graves, headed to Toronto. And what's the grade that you are giving Adam Finkelstein?
Well, let me start with some numbers because Graves is an analytics pick. This is a pick that every algorithm is going to love because he's got this rare overlap of defensive metrics, of offensive efficiency, of offensive rebounding. So any algorithm is going to love this guy. But the eye test, the old-fashioned scouts are going to look at things like he's really limited vertically at the rim. His lateral quickness is not very good. He only started 4 games at Santa Clara. Now, he will give them some front courts, fuller spacing that's going to be really well utilized in Toronto. I'm going B- because I think this is an example of where the analytics might miss a little something. The eye test to me says this was an end of the first round pick. But again, the numbers are pretty compelling here.
This is going to be one basketball people talk about for a while, either positively or negatively. If it hits, it's going to be, we saw it in the numbers. We took a guy with a top 20 pick who started 4 games at Santa Clara, and we saw it and we hit it. That'll be a great story to tell. But if you don't, then it's like, once again, getting too cute. Watch basketball instead of the computer. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that out loud. This might be brilliant, but if it doesn't work, you're going to have people who say there is very little you saw in his actual college basketball career that suggested he'd be taken in this place.
All right, so he gets on base, basically,
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Right? I mean, right, he gets on base. But a cool story, though. 4th Santa Clara drafted in the first round in the last 50 years. Overall, San Antonio going with a big man, Jayden Quaintance, 6'10", 255. Only played 4 games at Kentucky, dealing with lingering knee issues from a torn ACL in February of 2025 with Arizona State. But in 2025, he was Big 12 All-Defensive Team, Big 12 All-Freshman Team with the Sun Devils. So now you are betting on his potential here if you're San Antonio. And Adam, what do we think here for Jayden Quaintance, 20th overall to the Spurs?
So what I will tell you is that if he were healthy, he would have been a top 10 pick. One of the highest level athletes in the draft, a true defensive savant. His defensive playmaking numbers were off the charts as a freshman at Arizona State before he tore his ACL. Now, it's all about the ACL and the medical. There are going to be reports, which I'm sure Matt can elaborate on, and we'll see how long it takes to get him right. But we are talking about a San Antonio staff that has figured out how to keep Victor Wembanyama healthy. If they can keep Wemby healthy, this guy with unprecedented proportions, I'm pretty sure they can figure out Jayden Quaintance's ACL. If and when that happens, you have one of the most incredible interior defensive combinations that I think the NBA is going to see over the course of the next decade. I think this is a risk because of the health, but it is well worth the risk. This is an A- and a very justifiable swing for the Spurs.
Number 1 college angle, the offseason vibe reversal for Mark Pope continues with a pace. The fact that he had a guy who played 4 games and has overshot most expectations to go top 20 in the draft. Pope can claim now another big win there. The Quaintance medical just isn't clean. I mean, I talked to a variety of sources. The knee, there's still plenty of work to do. It was giving a lot of franchises some real hesitation. I actually had one team picking in the 20s speculate to me whether they thought he might actually really truly flirt with falling to the bottom couple of picks in the first round. San Antonio says no to that and pairs with Wembanyama. If Quaintance can get healthy, yes, San Antonio quite clearly is going for the best overall defensive team in the NBA to try and get themselves to a championship as quickly as possible. But this will be a polarizing pick, no doubt about it. There was also a lot of heavy speculation in league circles that San Antonio was targeting Graves. Toronto, 1 pick before, goes with Graves. And so it's interesting just to see the ripple effect here as they go with a player with a lot of potential. But the opinion on him is widespread. I had one other GM tell me, I'm just not sure how good of a basketball player he actually forecasted to be over the next 5 years.
All right, let's go to Spurs great. Avery Johnson helped them win an NBA championship in 1999, hit the game winner in Game 5 against the New York Knicks. Look, Avery, your reaction here, Jayden Quaintance, because here's a situation where they don't have to rush him on the floor. Not that they were going to, but they have plenty of time to develop this young man coming back from injury.
And the Spurs, we need a backup big. And at the end of the day, when Wemby was out the game, we struggled with that second unit Cornette maybe had one decent game. You remember when the Nuns they were laying hands on him. They should have laid hands on him every game. But we struggled at that backup center position. This kid's very athletic. I think he'll fit well, with Castle and Harper, all of our guys that can get downhill, play the lob game, be the last line of defense. I don't know if he's going to ever develop a three-point shot, but again, if you're talking about a big that can play 16 minutes a game, if he can stay healthy, the Spurs may have found something here. They got one of the best medical staff and medical teams in the league, brand new practice facility, which is incredible. He's going to be around a team that now lost in the NBA Finals, so they're going to be hungry to get back with Wembanyama as, the key leader of that team. So it's the right fit. He's in a good situation. If he can stay healthy, he could really add something to that second unit and be a threat, especially a lob threat with that second unit, because we took a step back, especially in the finals. We couldn't protect the lead. We all know the story. So I'm hopeful that he can come in and give us 12 to 15 minutes a game.
Gary, what do you make of this pick? How would you describe this pick made by San Antonio, 20th overall?
Excellent. I love it.
Okay.
Because think about where you're at if you're San Antonio. They didn't just win the title, but they are the favorites to win the next one. Mm-hmm. Who are you adding with the 20th pick that is going to realistically be a meaningful player in a second-round series in the Western Conference playoffs next year? I'm not sure. But what you could be adding here is the best defensive prospect in the draft to go with the best defensive player in the world. Draft night's an awful night to get hyperbolic, but if the knee is fine and the career unfolds the way the talent suggests that it should, you could look up at some point and go, the San Antonio Spurs had the two best defensive bigs in the entire world, because trust me, and Fink can speak on it better than most, before his knee was wrecked, that is what he projected as.
That's a scary thought, by the way. Jayden Quaintance and Victor Wembanyama.
If it all comes together, then forget about it on that end of the floor. Just a quick anecdote for you. I happened to spend some time back in November with Kentucky's program when they were playing in Madison Square Garden, and was with them on the day of a game, and Pope and that staff invited me to just go and hang out and be with them as they did some film review and did some breakfast and everything. And at this point, Quaintance wasn't on the floor. He wasn't playing. But at two different points over the course of an hour or so, he was engaged in a conversation with his teammates, and then I kind of went off and talked to some other folks. And then about 15 minutes later, I looked down, and he is head down, like absorbing into a book, while all the other teammates are obviously like they're eager for the day. He's a very, very curious mind, and in that particular organization, this does feel like there's so much background work that goes into this. I feel like a lot of the stuff up here and what he's about is going to fit San Antonio well.
And I want to add to this just very quickly. I was at the CBS Sports Classic where he played. It was his first game of the season, only one of 4 because they shut it down after that. But when he played and impacted the game in a positive way, I'd never seen this before. He brought to the media room Kentucky's training staff and just said, I want to thank these people for helping me get back to where I am. Obviously, we know what happened next, but to Norlander's point, he's a different kind of basketball player, somebody who seems to have interests that are impressive.
This is an awesome story here for Kareem Lopez, first Mexican-born player selected in the first round in NBA draft history. So again, let's recap here. This is the Memphis Grizzlies pick after trading down 2 times. So the Memphis Grizzlies selecting Kareem Lopez, 6'8", 224, 19 years old, and he makes history here for his home country. What do you grade this as, Kareem Lopez, number 21 overall to Memphis?
You know, I'm candidly surprised. I thought this would have been LeBaron Philon. With Cameron Boozer already in the mix here, the assumption was they were going to go big early and then with the guard late. Lopez is at best a combo forward, at worst a 4-man, which is the same position that Boozer plays, and they also have Cedric Coward at the wing. Think about like a young Denny Avdia, someone who's big, strong, physical, but largely unrefined with his game. He's going to need some time to polish it off, but the physical tools are all there. So this is more of a long-term stock for Avdia, but one that had some real interest, even as high as the late lottery. So I'm going to go B, because I am generally a fan of Memphis not only being able to add to their assets, but also doing the due diligence in order to forecast, presumably, who was going to be taken. And so we can only assume that Lopez was their guy. But still, I think the fit's a little clunky.
I think it's fair to wonder if it would have been preferable to just trade down once, pick up Christian Anderson, and introduce Cameron Boozer and Christian Anderson. I can tell you, I think pretty confidently that's what the fan base would have been more excited about. But Kareem Lopez is a teenager, just like Cameron Boozer is a teenager. So we're on the same time frame here. And like Fink said, big physical wings, shots got to come around. We say that a lot on draft night with prospects. If it does, you got something special. If not, you still got a body and physical tools to work with.
Listen, I lean with Fink here. I just wonder about the fit alongside Boozer. The feedback consistently from NBA sources over the past couple of weeks was exactly this, that they would get Boozer and then they would pair with someone in the backcourt, particularly not knowing what the true future holds with Ja Morant. But that's not the way they went here. Now, I understand, now that we know the pick, the Grizzlies leadership quite clearly identified accurately, like, we want Lopez, we can give up all this, we know he's going to be there if we drop into the early 20s, and now they get him. But there's a lot of facets to a game, and just talking to people that know his game and what he's about, what he's proven, what he still has to prove, there's a lot of ironing out with his skill set, and isn't expected to be, this is the opinion of people I talk to, is not expected to be the kind of first-round pick that you see immediate gains from in year one and maybe not even year two.
All right, so Kareem Lopez, again, the first Mexican-born player selected in the first round in NBA draft history. Congrats to him and his family. Pretty cool moment there as Memphis wraps up its first-round selection. Back here on CBS Sports HQ on the clock, the Philadelphia 76ers with the 21st overall selection. Draft LeBaron Philon out of Alabama, 6'3", 175. First team All-SEC, 22 points per game, 5 assists on better than 50% from the floor, 40% from beyond the arc last season. So the 76ers getting a good one there in LeBaron Philon. Back here with the guys, Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish, Avery Johnson alongside as well ahead here as our coverage continues. All right, a grade here on this one, LeBaron Philon to the 76ers.
Yeah, this is a B+. I don't think the 76ers expected Philon to be on the board here. Obviously, there was a little bit of a late slip. Some people, myself included, view him as a potential better lead guard prospect than a number of the point guards we've seen go in the last 5 or 6 picks here. He's got tremendous pace with the basketball. He made a significant jump from his freshman to his sophomore year, not just in terms of his overall production, but the shooting. And the shooting is going to be a very important variable at the next level because you're surrounding guys like Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe and Joel Embiid, and you have to be able to create that spacing. We know he can create shots with the ball in his hands. I think he will be able to do that on the second unit. What he's going to have to do is rediscover the defense that he started to become known for as a freshman at Alabama and then just forgot about as a sophomore.
This is one of the players that I just sort of wondered if he should have more seriously considered going back to school, not because he couldn't get picked. He was always going to get picked somewhere in the first round, but because there were so many other lead guards in this draft that were just going to push him down to a range that was in this range. In other words, he comes back, has the same season next season. I know he'd be a year older, but he might be 5 or 6, 7, even 10 spots higher in the draft. Either way, he's headed to Philadelphia as somebody who, like Fink said, improved his stock immensely in the sophomore year. Freshman year, played mostly off the ball. Sophomore year, on the ball, three-point percentage is rock solid. 6'3", good enough size. This is somebody who is going to be a part of that Philadelphia backcourt, I would assume, in an impactful part for a while.
22 points per game last season, drafted 22nd overall here. What do you think of this pick and the fit here for Philadelphia?
Well, just rewind the clock a year. He was expected to be in the draft a year ago, and Nate Oates had fully moved on, and then the last minute he goes, nope, I'm coming back for my sophomore year. Gets picked higher this year than I think he would have last year, but his stock did take a knock here over the past month or so. There was a time where I thought his camp probably believed they would be somewhere in the top 16 or so. Instead, they followed a really good situation, honestly. I do like the fit here. Mike Gansey now running the show in Philadelphia, and did extensive work on him. I'm of the opinion that if Philon puts it all together, I do think he's going to be one of the 10 to 12 best players in this draft class when we check in 5 years from now. I like how he handles. I've seen him in person plenty of times. He can be a blur with the ball, and knowing what his role is going to be. There's some really established pieces there in Philadelphia, and being a wingman to Maxey amongst other players. I think it's a really good value pick, and I think the upside's tremendous.
Former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson, also alongside of us. He also coached at Alabama, and they get LeBaron Philon, do the Philadelphia 76ers. Avery, your reaction here to this pick?
I like the fit. And when you're talking about Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, these guys are stockpiling some young talent at the guard position. Phylon, incredible ball handler. I agree with Fink. His defense has been very inconsistent from year to year. Freshman year, terrific defender. Took a major step back defensively. And I know, with their system, they're more of an offensive team. But we'll see if he's able to guard his yard, is what we talk about, especially in closeout situations, and guard those first three dribbles when he's on defense. But I think this kid's got a tremendous upside. There's no pressure for him to come in and start immediately. We would have been, thrilled if he was picked in the top 15. That probably would have been okay. But he slid to the 22nd pick. I think this is a terrific pickup. Again, another guy that can come in and give you those 18 to 22 minutes day one. And we'll see what happens with, whether they can stay healthy. But I like this for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Gary, when you look at this franchise, they moved on from Daryl Morey, and you see what they're doing now. They're trying to get the most they can out of Joel Embiid. You saw Tyrese Maxey. You saw VJ Edgecombe in the playoffs, how excellent he was. When this team is properly constructed, and whatever that looks like here in the future, this can be a team that can get back to being a contender in the East.
There is no question, but the issue is Joel Embiid.
Yep.
I mean, he is on a big contract, and he's just never healthy consistently. And even like in this past postseason, you saw it. He plays in a game and he looks great, and then he can't play because his body doesn't hold up. And so that's going to be the thing hanging over Philadelphia until that's no longer there. How good can you be without Joel Embiid? Because you never really know when you're going to have him.
You mentioned Daryl Morey, who Mike Gansey succeeded as in charge of Philadelphia's basketball operations. The last deal that Morey did was trading away Jared McCain to OKC. That was a move that became largely criticized, in large part because of what Morey said in the press conference afterwards. This essentially replaces that and gives Philadelphia now a three-guard rotation that they can build off of moving forward. And the assumption is that you can play any two of those at a time, meaning Maxey, Edgecombe, and Phylon. Any two of those three can be on the court at any one time, and now you have your backcourt solidified for the foreseeable future.
All right, the latest pick, LeBaron Phylon, 22nd overall to the Philadelphia 76ers. Back here on CBS Sports HQ, on the clock, the Atlanta Hawks select the big man out of St. John, Zuby Ejiofor, the only Big East player in the last 20 years to lead his team in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game. What a season he had for St. John's. So now Atlanta taking Kingston Flemings at number 8 and also grabbing Zuby Ejiofor with the 23rd overall pick. Hakeem Dermish back here alongside Matt Norlander. Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. Your grade is what, Adam?
Let me just preface this by saying I am a big Zuby Ejiofor fan. I respect what he did. I think he's got an NBA-ready body. I think he is a beast inside. He's more skilled than people give him credit for because he can really pass. But I'm going C+ here because I think this is a little high. Not only that, I also think it's a bit redundant with Onyeka Okongwu, another undersized, wide-bodied five-man. So I just don't love it, GP.
I understand that. Zuby is somebody I had projected as a top 30 pick in this draft, so I'm not surprised that he went on Tuesday night as opposed to Wednesday. But I mentioned earlier I was at the CBS Sports Classic when Jayden Quaintance was in that game. And one of the things I remember just sort of recognizing in passing, looking at the court, was, man, Zuby looks small next to Jayden Quaintance. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to be undersized in the NBA. But the motor is so good. He plays so hard. He's going to have a shot. And this is a great message for basketball players all over the world. I hope there's a freshman out there who struggled in his first year of college basketball, because that's what Zuby Ejiofor just did. I hope that freshman is watching this story. He played 5.2 minutes per game at Kansas and felt like he had to get out of there. So he did. And a few years later, he's the Big East Player of the Year, and now he's the 23rd pick in the NBA draft. That is a wonderful story. The A.J. Dybantsa story, the Cameron Boozer story, those stories were written a long time ago. They had aimed for this night years ago, since they were 14, 15, 16 years old. This one was made as an adult. It's awesome.
In addition to Big East Player of the Year, Big East Tournament Outstanding Player, Big East Defensive Player of the Year, Big East Scholar Athlete of the Year. Don't forget about that, okay? We still love athletics and education as well. And look, Zuby schooled a lot of players in the Big East this season.
He was the second best big man in college basketball last season, behind who? The National Player of the Year, Cam Boozer. Among big men specifically, Zuby Ejiofor, you're going to hear plenty of praises, and rightfully so, because his story is inspirational. I am surprised he went this high. Guess what? Zuby Ejiofor's camp is surprised as well. I checked in the past 24 hours. They thought the Knicks might be the best case scenario. Could he stay at home and play in the Garden? But indeed, Atlanta, it knew, that front office knew that Ejiofor would be there for the taking at 23, put a premium on him, and so they take him. And, oh, by the way, one of the better defenders in all of college hoops last season as well. We'll see how that translates. By the way, you know you're about to get dragged from our guy Fink when Hakeem tees him up on the grade. He goes, before that, I just want to say something.
And
you know it's over for them.
And let me just say out of experience, when you're sitting at a desk and you want to preface something, you're hoping the clip gets all of that. The social media clip needs to have all the preface, because otherwise the preface doesn't help you.
Let me just add, it's really hard to get through my thought, too, when I see Norlander start to crack up laughing and when I'm in the middle of that preface. So that's...
You guys have done this before, though. You guys were on the podcast together, so you should know your trends and all these things. All right, let's go back out to Avery Johnson, former NBA Coach of the Year. So the Hawks here in the first round draft Kingston, Flemings out of Houston, Zuby Ejiofor out of St. John's. I know you know the St. John's program very well. What is your reaction to what the Atlanta Hawks did here in the first round, Avery?
I agree with Gary. I'm happy for Zuby Ejiofor. You know, this when you look at a player who stays in college. Obviously, he's a little bit undersized. We'll see how his game translates on the NBA level, but this kid put in the work, okay? Especially in the Big East. I know the lead donor for St. John's, Mike Rapoli, I think he's really deep in Mike Rapoli's pockets over the last 2 years. But this kid is, I think he'll be a solid addition. He's not gonna blow you away. He's not going to out-jump anybody. They'll move him around. But when you look at he and Kingston Fleming combined with this draft, especially with Atlanta trying to take the next step and maybe win more than one game in a series, when they thought they won the championship, when they beat the Knicks, or 2 games. But I like this fit overall. I know it's not going to get a high grade, but we'll see how he fits in and what's his role going to be from day one, along with Kingston Fleming's role, because we know CJ McCollum, re-signed with Atlanta or did an extension, so we know he'll be back. But this adds more quality depth to the Atlanta Hawks team.
Yeah, the grade was a C+. You can hit him up at Adam Finkelstein, CBSSports.com. I'm kidding. 24 overall. The Lakers going to get Cameron Carr, the talented guard out of Baylor. 3rd most points scored by a Big 12 player a couple of seasons ago. Son of Chris Carr, so he's got some ties to the NBA. Chris Carr, 1997 NBA Slam Dunk Contest runner-up to Kobe Bryant. So the Lakers are getting Cameron Carr out of Baylor. Your grade better than a C+?
Yeah, B+. Okay. I think this is a high upside prospect, someone who's got to make sure his motor and his feel are where they need to be. But you don't normally, at this spot in the first round, are able to check boxes of explosive athlete, extreme length, and shot making. He's got all 3 of those things, which is why his upside is higher than you would typically get in this point. So I think it's a great pick for the Lakers, and I also think the investment they had to make to move up a spot to ensure they get this high upside proposition was very justifiable.
Yeah, the Knicks just basically said, we got our team, we're good, we got a championship, we're still celebrating, we'll sell you a pick. And so Cameron Carr goes to the Lakers. I like this as well. 21 years old, was one of the real breakout stars in college basketball, even if he didn't play on one of the better teams. My point being, at Tennessee, he was one player. And he goes to Baylor and averages 14 points more per game, shot a good percentage from 3. Like Fink said, he's got good positional size. The arms go way out here. Yes, wingspan is top shelf. So this is a swing. But honestly, a swing in this draft, I might have taken a little earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he definitely fell. This is an interesting one. Sometimes you get caught into this cycle for 3, 4, 5, 6 picks where what you present versus what every NBA big board and on all 30 of these franchises, it's different. There's a different list, and Cam Carr falls here. But so this is a really good value play and could prove to be a heck of a pick in the process. I just want to bring up what Scott Drew has done here since 2021. Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Kendall Brown, Jeremy Sohan, James Nagy, Keontae George, Yves Missi, Jacoby Walter last year, or 2 years ago, and VJ Eckham, and now Cam Carr. Baylor's been a little bit up and down, but Drew has been like top 5 in the country in recruiting and cultivating first-round level talent. Gets another one there with Cameron Carr. We'll see if he's truly on the upswing here, or if this proves to be one of those first-round picks where you get taken and you check in a few years from now and it's, where are they?
Avery, what do you make of the fit here? Cameron Carr to the LA Lakers.
I love it. The Lakers need to get some young wings. He fits right in. Excellent length. Wingspan he's got 7-foot wingspan. This kid is long. I think he'll make shots. When the Lakers, they don't know what they're going to do with LeBron James. We're not sure there. Obviously, Luka hopefully will be healthy. Reeves, he'll be back. But this kid adds more quality depth. The Lakers they've missed on a couple of kids the last couple of years, but Scott Drew does a really good job of developing kids for the next level, for the NBA level. Started off at Tennessee, but I think he went 18 points a game. The Lakers need players that can put the ball in the basket and be a complement, because Luka Doncic is so ball dominant. You got to have complementary pieces to play alongside Luka.
Well, the Knicks have made a selection. Knicks in 5. You heard her first. I had the Knicks in 5. And here at 25, they go Sergio De La Rey out of Spain, 20 years old, 6'5", 175. He was named the MVP of the 2025 Spanish Super Cup. Adam, what should we know about Sergio De La Rey and your grade here with this one?
He's a big guard. He's an advanced passer. He's got an excellent feel for the game. His jumper has really improved, but this is someone who doesn't get sped up. He plays at his own pace, and he's going to be a complementary guy in what is going to continue to be a Jalen Brunson-centric offense. So he's going to be able to make quick decisions and hopefully be an offensive spark plug. He is not a dynamic athlete, so they will have to compensate for him on the defensive end of the floor unless he can really exceed expectations on that end. But there is a belief that with his overlap of size and feel that he can have some really good value here. So I'm going B. This is a little bit higher than I had him on our overall big board, but I still think given what the Knicks have in terms of not really much size in the backcourt, this makes sense.
This is somebody who was not really showing up in the first round of mocks, say 4 months ago,
right.
6 months ago, but he has helped himself throughout the pre-draft process and leading into this moment. Like Fink said, 6'6" combo guard, 6'9" wingspan, can operate in pick and rolls, can shoot the ball. He's an interesting prospect. It's just not somebody most basketball fans in America are that familiar with, because we spent the past 5 months watching college basketball more so than this league.
All right, so Sergio De La Rey to the Knicks, 25th overall. They have selected Terrace Reed Jr. out of UConn. Grade for this, because this was where his range was, bottom of the first round, top of the second round.
Yeah, I think this is a B. This is the second UConn player that the Spurs have drafted in recent years. They took Stephon Castle a couple years ago. They were not teammates. I think that's important to note. But they are really solidifying their center rotation behind Wemby. We saw them take Jaden Quaintance. I think this is an indication that they're not sure that Quaintance is ready to play next year, and they are willing to do the rehab necessary to get him right. Terrace Reed is a high-floor big man. We saw him make extreme strides over the course of his 2 years at UConn. He's skilled on the interior. I think he's more skilled facing the basket than people give him credit for. Similarly, he's a high-volume rebounder and also pretty versatile defensively for someone who has the size, length, and strength of a true NBA center. It's a very solid pick. It's a B.
I like this. I guess in San Antonio, the idea is in a year or two, maybe Jaden Quaintance, you're the first big off of our bench because you're fully healthy and an explosive athlete on the defensive end. In the meantime, Terrace Reed, this is your job. And he's old enough, had a great NCAA tournament. He's plug and play and ready to go. And I think the reigning Western Conference champs favorites to win the NBA title next season just help themselves.
Well, look, they like UConn players, right? I mean, they got Steph Castle, now they got Terrace Reed. Maybe, I know they got Mitch Johnson there, and he's been heavily criticized.
They got 35 Caravans there.
No doubt about it.
Right?
Yep, no doubt. And then from the league side, since Quaintance was picked, I had someone in the surrounding picks on that San Antonio pick hit me up and say basically, listen, we were very intrigued with Jayden acquaintance, but our belief is he's going to have to sit out next season and not play. That seems like the more likely route than not. So if indeed that winds up being the case, it makes complete sense why they go with Reed here, who really did, like, you want to talk about a player who took the month of March and changed his future for the better of it. It was Reed. He was always going to be a draft pick given what he did in aggregate with UConn this season, guys, but he had a dynamite run helping propel UConn to its third national championship game in a 4-year span. Thrilled for him. Dan Hurley with yet another first-round pick, and a good night for the Big East to have two critical bigs there go in the first round.
All right, let's go back out to Avery Johnson. Helped the Spurs win the NBA championship in 1999. And look, you get a guy in Terrace Reed Jr. from UConn. The kid's going to walk right through the door with the culture already ready to go and ready to play right away.
Yeah, this is basically Andre Drummond, guys. At the end of the day, this is someone, that can come in. Acquaintance is not ready to go. He can give the Spurs, 10 to 12, 15 minutes a game. He's a big body, bruiser, physical, 0 3-point range. He'll be a dribble handoff to get the Spurs into some of their action as they're swinging the basketball. Physically ready to play, imposing. But at the end of the day, this guy is a walking double-double. If he were to play high minutes, because he's a terrific rebounder, but he just needs to finish around the basket. He'll play solid defense from the Spurs. He comes from a winning program. Steph Castle proved that when you come from UConn, you've been a part of Final Fours and championship teams. That translates well. So I'm really excited about the package of centers that the Spurs have addressed, that they know at the backup center position that they really need help to compete at a high level.
Again, Denver traded this pick to the Spurs, 26 for 35 and 2 future second-round picks. So the San Antonio Spurs taking Terrace Reed Jr. out of UConn. NBA draft continues here on CBS Sports HQ. 27th overall, the Boston Celtics selecting Chris Sinak Jr. out of Houston, 6'11", 240, led the Cougars with 6 double-doubles this past season and averaged, the 8 rebounds per game, most by a Big 12 freshman last season. And he is headed to the Boston Celtics. Back here in studio, Hakeem Dermish alongside Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. Chris Sinak Jr. to the Boston Celtics.
I like it. I mean, this guy is 6'10" without shoes on. He's got a 7'5" wingspan. He answered the questions about his motor this year at Houston. He established himself as a high-volume rebounder. He's extremely mobile for his size. So the potential to be a very switchable defender is right there. Didn't put a ton of pressure on the rim this year. He's got a tendency to settle for mid-range shots. That's got to get cleaned up. I just won't be tolerated in Boston, so I think that's a positive thing. And I do think he's more of a lob threat than we saw, in large part because there were just spacing concerns in Houston. The other important note here is Boston has become really well known for their player development program, and Sinak is far from a finished product. So I think this is a pick that could pay dividends down the road. And I think, truthfully, the big winner of this is Chris Sinak, because he's going to get a lot better in Boston.
Yeah, this feels like one where they look at somebody who was a top 10 talent coming out of high school and recognize it might take a minute. There's still a lot of development here. I don't think we're going to watch the Eastern Conference Finals. The Boston Celtics are in it in 2027, and Chris Sinak is playing a big, massive role off the bench for them. It'll be a minute, probably, but all the talent and just stuff you need to create a competent basketball player at that level, he enters the league with it. It's just got to be developed.
All right, Professor Finkelstein, what's the grade on this pick?
B. Did
Okay.
I not say that? Apologies.
It's okay. B. You agree with that?
I would go A-. Not that I'm the grade guy. Here's why.
Wow.
Now here's why. It's
You ain't made to be
it's
the grade
because-
guy.
it's
I mean,
because
Maybe,
of
maybe
the
you're not
value.
the grade guy.
You
but
get an
you're a
A.
great
You get
guy.
an A.
Okay.
For a guy, he asked me, what do you want from me? Listen, Sinak unquestionably went lower than he thought. He left at least $4 million in an NIL contract at Houston on the table by doing this. But Fink and I are simpatico on this. The franchise that he is going to give him a wonderful chance to be, at first, a bit player, but really grow into himself. It took him a while to really find his stride at Houston under Kelvin Sampson. That wasn't the case with Kingston Flemings, who, in his first week on campus last summer, was the best player on the roster immediately. Sinak, he is going to be a little bit of a slow cook, But Boston has to be, Brad Stevens has to be over the moon, the fact that he was sitting there at 28, because there wasn't like there was a lot of bad intel on him or bad info. I don't know why he dropped this far. This is a big win for Boston. I really like the pick.
At 18 rebounds in that round of 64 win, most rebounds by a Houston player in a tournament game since my guy Hakeem Olajuwon in 1983 in the national title game. All right, back to Avery. Avery, you know the program well at Houston. Chris Sinak Jr., what are the Boston Celtics getting?
Yeah, they're getting a kid that's obviously versatile in terms of, mid-range game. I love his size. We'll see if he can make the three-point shot. The Boston Celtics, they love to shoot the three. I mean, it's nothing for Boston to attempt, 45 threes in a game? So I don't know if he spreads the floor in that way. But again, as we discussed earlier, player development is a huge key. Sam Cassell is on that staff. I know him extremely well. We'll see what happens there. But again, Chris Sinak, I wish this kid would have gone back to college for one more year, because I think, especially with next year's draft, I don't know, Fink and the guys could tell you whether it's really deep compared to the draft this year. This kid could have very well been a top 10 pick next year. So who knows? I think he could have easily slid out of the first round. Fortunately, Boston thought enough of him to take him at 27. But I know the hype that he had coming into his college basketball season. McDonald's All-American, Jordan Brand games. This kid was projected to be a lottery pick. And it was a massive slide, on 24, 23 minutes a game and only 9 points a game. So we'll see how the player development, how his game is going to translate into a system where they love for all 5 of their players on the floor to be able to shoot the three-point shot.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. A couple of players in this draft could certainly have benefited from going back a year, but here they are, NBA professionals. 3 picks remain in the NBA draft. 28th overall, the Brooklyn Nets select Joshua Jefferson, forward out of Iowa State, 6'9", 240, first team all Big 12, averaged 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists per game last season. He is headed to Brooklyn alongside Mikel Brown Jr., who went 6th overall to Brooklyn earlier in the night. Back here in studio, Hakeem Darmish alongside Matt Norlander, Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish. All right, Adam, Brooklyn bottom of the first round here, getting Joshua Jefferson, a great scorer. Your grade is what?
It's a B. I mean, this is very solid. I think this is representative of a growing kind of trend amongst NBA decision makers that value the overlap of physicality and feel for the game. Jefferson doesn't have the glaring measurables. He's pretty much maxed out physically, but he's got really good defensive metrics, and he is a terrific passer in the front court. And so you combine those things, and what you have is probably a long-time NBA player. And if you can get that at 28, which equates to a relatively small salary spot, that's pretty good value. Now, what they did is they passed on higher upside propositions, but those propositions also have a higher chance to be bust. So I think this is just a solid, they laid up here. I'll make the golf analogy. They made up, they got a rotation player, and I think it's a solid pick.
But I think what we're learning in the NBA is that you need people like Joshua Jefferson to be good. And it's better to have somebody like him coming off your bench than a big upside swing 19-year-old who can't get off your bench. And that's what Joshua Jefferson's going to be. High basketball IQ, got better every season he was at Iowa State. Norlander and I have talked about it a lot on the Ion College Basketball Podcast. Maybe not the highest ceiling, maybe not even one of the 30 highest ceilings in this draft, but the floor is really high, and he's gonna find a place in this league and stick around.
3 words. Will not fail.
Right.
Too efficient, too smart, too physical. Does not matter where he gets drafted. He is one of my favorite prospects that was clearly outside the top 20 that I think is going to stick for multiple years, 8, 10 years in the league. Too smart. Knows how to do everything. Was going to fit his role perfectly. This is a wonderful, wonderful draft pick by the Nets. No, he's not going to be the 5th best player, the 7th best player in this draft. I do think he's got a great chance to outplay his draft slot here at 28 by 5, maybe even 10 spots when we look up 5 years from now. I love it. This is a wonderful, wonderful pick by the Nets.
Will not fail. All right, I like that. Let's go back out to Avery Johnson. Avery, how would you grade the Brooklyn Nets draft overall? They get Mikel Brown Jr. at 6, and now they get Joshua Jefferson here at 28.
Yeah, I give it a B+. This kid is, for a 9 guard, he can really pass the basketball. Remember, Iowa State was derailed because of his injury in the tournament. messed up my Final Four pick because I had him going to the Final Four. But this kid's got the right body. With Julius Randle moving on, I think he'll be able to get slotted in to possibly even start. Older player, so he knows what he's doing. You look at the triple doubles, but he plays the right way, cares about winning. He's a great teammate. I love his skill set. I think it's going to translate well and transition well to the NBA, specifically with this team.
All right. There you have it from our guys on this pick here from the Brooklyn Nets, taking Joshua Jefferson. I like what Matt said, will not fail. Coming up, we've got another trade here at the end of the first round. The Sacramento back here on CBS Sports HQ. End of the first round. Alex Karaban, one of the most beloved players in UConn basketball history, winningest player in men's UConn basketball history, two-time national champ, headed to the Sacramento Kings. So it is King Karaban to Sacramento with the 29th overall selection. Adam Finkelstein, look, there's no hiding it. We love Alex Karaban as a person, as a player, what he did at UConn, what he meant to that program. I'm going to give this pick an A. I don't really care what you have to say. Whatever your pick is, I really don't care because this is an A for me, but go ahead and chime in.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'll say this. You'll have to go online to see what I grade it. Great floor spacer, great passer, terrific basketball IQ. Give Sacramento a lot of credit. That front office takes a lot of, they get a lot of grief, and a lot of it has to do with ownership kind of dictating decisions. But they have made good choices on the margins. Last year they got Maxime Renaud. That was one of the best picks in the draft. I think Darius Acuff was a total win to start this draft. Karaban is a long-time NBA player, and this is a terrific win for him and for, frankly, the UConn Huskies, who now have 2 first-round draft picks.
We talked about it earlier. I have heard from multiple front office executives that they value just a player coming from UConn more than they might another player coming from another place, because they feel like Dan Hurley and that staff, the people who are on it now and have been on it in previous years, really are great in the evaluation process and then getting people prepped for this moment. Alex Karaban has spent 4 years in college, went to 3 Final Fours, and is going to be a legend on that UConn campus forever. And to see him get rewarded for that with this is a really cool story.
Fellas, we are seeing a lot of players that logged a lot of years in college end up as first-round draft picks tonight. That's pretty cool. Obviously, the top end of the draft is just littered with one-and-done and incredible and tantalizing prospects. A lot of vets that are getting picked. That's cool. I got a story for you on Karaban. So 2 years ago, UConn's a 2-time national champion. Karaban has lived an incredible college life just 2 seasons in, and he seriously explores the NBA draft process. He had a 2-year guarantee from the Golden State Warriors in the second round, and he seriously considered it. And he decided to come back. And what happened soon thereafter? Dan Hurley got approached by the Lakers, and he seriously considered it, but they were kind of arm in arm, hand in hand. Like, Karaban could have gone and stayed honest and true and loyal to UConn and Hurley did the same exact thing. And for Karaban to have become a college legend, one of the all-time names in stores, made a 3rd championship game in his senior year, really happy for him. And I'm going to own something here. New Boston College coach Luke Murray and I had some back and forth in recent days over where Karaban will wind up going. And based on what the feedback I had gotten, it felt like he was going to go somewhere in the early 30s. The reason why he goes here, because Sacramento knew it, and I insisted to him, and Luke insisted that he was really going to have a great chance of going in the 20s. I'm owning it, Luke. You were right. I was wrong. I'll head up to Boston soon enough, and we'll make something happen there in your first year with the Eagles.
Congratulations to Alex Karaban, a first-round pick. All right, so we're still trying to figure this out here. There has been a trade, and what I'm hearing here, Koa Pete to the Knicks. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm trying to make sense of it as well. I could read you what I'm reading.
Okay.
All right, so we're just in here that the Knicks have traded the 25th pick to the Mavericks for number 30 Koa Pete and 2 second-round picks. That's according to an ESPN report. So the Knicks have made this trade out of the first round. All right, so we're still sort of figuring this out. The Knicks traded Pete to the Phoenix Suns for three rounders in cash.
So it just
so it's still sort of.
So it's not a homecoming.
No.
All right, then I take back my entire take.
It does appear that he's still going to
TV,
play for the
everybody.
Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
But this is just to hammer home a point.
Yes, let me be clear. He is still headed to the Phoenix Suns. So, yes, he's
your
still
point
headed to the
stands.
Suns.
Take
Yes.
reinstated.
Bring your point back.
I love it.
Okay. There's got to be a better way to do this on draft night.
Actually, maybe there doesn't.
Hey, look, we were 29 for 29 tonight.
I
by
love
the
what's
way,
happening
okay?
here.
We're doing our best to keep up, but my wife is at home trying to enjoy the NBA draft with our young sons, and she's in a group text with her friends, and they're all trying to get excited, and they could not be more confused about how this night is unfolding.
The New York Knicks traded 25 Sergio Delaria to the Dallas Mavericks for Koa Pete and 2 second-round picks, and then the Knicks traded Pete to the Phoenix Suns for three second-rounders in cash. That's according to Shams.
Okay.
Can you imagine trying to be a casual fan and follow the NBA draft?
Avery, sort this out for us. Koa Pete to the Suns.
Is Koa Pete going to play with Devin Booker? That's all I want.
That's what it sounds like.
We think so.
Let's check in Wednesday morning and see where we're at this base.
Yeah. I played against Larry Johnson, who played at UNLV and played against us in '99 with the New York Knicks. He has a similar body, 6'8", 245 pounds. He'll fit right in. He puts a lot of pressure on the defense. He drives bigger guys off the dribble. He does a nice job of posting up smaller defenders. We'll see if he can improve his shot. But this is a nice opportunity for him to stay in the state of Arizona. You have a ton of fans playing with the Suns. They obviously know who he is. He doesn't have to go very far. So I'm excited. I like this pick for the Phoenix Suns, however he got to Phoenix.
All right, let me just recap, okay? Knicks traded Sergio Delaria to the Mavs. We're not going to get into the second-round picks. And then they traded him to the Phoenix Suns, all right? So anybody watching...
He got traded twice.
Yes, he got traded twice. So there's going to be...
have a lot of hats.
Now it's going to be the Sergio Delaria, Koa Pete, Luka Doncic, and Trae Young. What team is... The Mavs.
The Mavs.
Yes.
All right, good to know.
So there you go. We're going to have a Wikipedia page about this trade apparently one day. Koa Pete, welcome to the NBA, a first-round pick. He's headed to Phoenix. He's staying to Arizona. He's staying home. We've got much